Steering the truck into the alley behind my shop, I maneuvered it with ease, moving stealthily under the cloak of night. Everything was packed into my spatial ring bag by bag. Potato loads, rice flour, along with cooking oil and emergency medical kits, were stuffed inside, alongside cases of beer and liquor, leaving me with extra room. Extra space was still available inside my inventory. Xiao Lihai's body measurement data sheet was tucked away by me, inside my storage pouch, right beside the ancient positioning crystal, ensuring I could hand it over to Iron Dome the moment I arrived. By 9:30 p.m., everything was completely prepped and ready. With my alarm set for 11:40, I stretched out on my folding cot, fully aware that multiple heavy-hitting factions were now tracking my otherworld goods. From E.G. Chio's Institute to Huang Wenbao's crew and the Xiao family, I realized a hidden, secure, and legal resource network had to be established between both worlds right away. Suddenly, the alarm shrilled loudly. Leaping up, I splashed cold water across my face to wake up, equipping myself with a beast tooth necklace around my neck and the positioning crystal firmly in my hand. My phone flashed 11:58 as I closed my eyes and waited it out. At midnight sharp, my consciousness faded into black. Opening my eyes instantly, I knew something felt totally off. It carried a bitter chill, resembling a freezing mountain morning, like being buried too deep underground, where turning into a skeleton felt imminent. The air was cold, damp, and pitch-black darkness swallowed every direction in dust. Squeezing the positioning crystal yielded zero response, not even a slight tingle. The signature three-layer glow that normally hummed against my palm remained completely dead, as if actively suppressed by something. Trying a second time produced nothing. For the first time ever, the crystal had utterly failed. Panic gripped my chest instantly. Retrieving my flashlight from the spatial ring, I clicked it on to pierce the gloom. A stark white beam sliced through the thick darkness, exposing a massive ruined palace. Its scale was so immense that the light couldn't even reach the distant walls. Countless murals blanketed the architecture, though every single one had been thoroughly vandalized. Slashes from blades and scorch marks from fire covered the surfaces, smashed mercilessly by brute force. The carved faces of figures had been chiseled away cleanly, and animal heads chopped off entirely. This vandalism was far from random. It felt like a deliberate ritual executed with pure hatred. Broken stone pillars littered the ground like fallen giants. The towering ceiling vanished entirely into the black overhead, leaving the entire complex completely sealed off. No doors or windows could be found anywhere, yet fresh air continued to circulate normally for some reason. Searching every wall and tapping against every stone, I checked frantically for hidden mechanisms. Only solid rock met me at every turn. To sum up my current dilemma, the positioning crystal is completely dead. There's zero exit in sight, and I'm trapped inside what looks like an ancient, cursed palace, built to be forgotten. Somebody really went out of their way to erase this place from history. My options include taking my own life, to trigger a forced return to reality. Definitely a nuclear option. Otherwise, waiting out a single real-world day, equating to 4 days here, should activate the automatic pullback feature. The catch is, honestly, I've completely lost track of how long I've been trapped down here, while my mind is racing through every worst-case scenario imaginable. Suddenly, my flashlight beam cuts across a damp wall and locks onto something unexpected. An odd, jagged groove has been carved straight into the rock. It is far too precise to be formed by nature, and clearly made by human hands. As I stare right at it, something clicks in my head, making me instantly remember that metal medallion, the ancient relic I dug up from the bottom of the dragon's nest, ages ago back in my storage pouch. Fumbling through my pouch, I pulled a heavy piece out and hold it up directly into the flashlight glow. Its shape, its overall size, and the curves of the edges are a dead ringer for the groove in the wall. Lining it up carefully, I take a deep breath and shove it home. Without warning, the entire stone structure starts violently shaking, while a thick layer of dust rains down from the ceiling. The massive wall splits wide open like some stone-cold monster mouth. The medallion shoots back out and clatters loudly against the floor, revealing a pitch-black tunnel lurking right behind the barrier, stretching endlessly into nowhere as a freezing gust of air blows out, carrying an intense stench of old dust and absolute rot. Scooping up the fallen medallion, I plant myself at the dark tunnel entrance and stare into the absolute void for what feels like forever. Every single horror movie I have ever watched is screaming at the top of its lungs. telling me not to go in there. Yet there is literally no other way out of this mess. Taking one deep breath, I force my boots forward. The ominous tunnel stretches on forever, with both damp walls completely covered in weathered, destroyed carvings, accompanied by text that is totally unreadable. Each of my footsteps echoes off the cold stone, in a way that eerily sounds like someone is tailing me. Closely from behind, after walking for about 10 minutes, scattered piles of bones begin appearing on the dirt ground. At first, it is just a few random pieces lying around. Then more show up, and then even more, until eventually the entire tunnel floor is completely carpeted with skeletons. Every single step produces a sickening crunch of dry bone that reverberates through the heavy silence. My palms are completely soaked with cold sweat, and my heart feels like it's trying to burst out through my ribcage. Yet I force myself to keep pushing forward, simply because there is no other option available. Worst case scenario, I die and magically wake back up in my shop, which is honestly not the most comforting pep talk I have ever given myself. But hey, it will definitely have to do the deeper down I walk, the weirder these remains get. The first section is filled with normal, human-sized skeletons, which is fine and totally expected. This is a bone tunnel anyway, so I've already accepted my poor life choices. The middle section transitions into bizarre wing skeletons, featuring massive wing bones that spread out from skeletal rib cages like fallen angels. Next up are horned skeletons bearing heavily curved horns, which are still adorned with fragments of old metal rings. Following those are remains with arms and legs. They're easily twice the thickness of human bones. It is clear this was never just a simple battle. Instead, this was a full-scale fantasy world war. Finally, the giant monster bones make an appearance, including a massive snake skeleton over 10 meters long, coiled up right in the middle of the tunnel, with most of its giant ribs violently chopped apart, and a rusty sword still jammed deep inside its skull, just casually resting there like some bizarre piece of dark decoration. Shattered armor and broken weapons are scattered everywhere across the floor. Fragments of snapped blades litter the dirt. Twisted spearheads and crushed shields lie side by side. Some chest plates are totally rusted into garbage, low-key useless, while others have weirdly kept their metallic shine intact, despite being covered in hairline fractures. At first, I'm tiptoeing around everything like a nervous cat, trying to show some respect to the dead, but after 5 minutes, I totally give up because there's just way too much loot. Honestly, you literally cannot take a single step without crushing ancient war debris. Then my inner scavenger goblin abruptly wakes up. A sword holding its shape catches my eye immediately. Ruined engravings pattern the blade, and the handle is made of pure bone material. Nobody's using it right now. Nobody has touched it for probably thousands of years either. I put on my work gloves and start looting like a madman. Broken sword? Yoink, right into the inventory. Then a heavy shield gets tossed into the mix. Half a chest plate? Don't mind if I do, plus some big monster bones. Grabbing only the premium chunks, obviously. My spatial ring is still only half empty. And these materials are definitely not your average, ordinary metal. The dwarves are going to have a total field day, examining all this stuff as I venture further down. The actual bone count starts to decrease, but the overall quality goes way up. The last few skeletons are terrifyingly well preserved and massive. One humanoid skeleton is over 3 meters tall, featuring 4 distinct horns on its skull. Each horn is carved with dense patterns that glimmer brightly under my flashlight beam. A two-handed great sword lies right next to it, in pristine condition with 0 rust. No cracks anywhere, its dark gold blade gleaming with a cold light. I squat down to grab it and nearly throw out my lower back. This heavy thing weighs well over 100 pounds. I have to use both hands, and every ounce of my strength just to lift the handle. Into the ring it goes, finally. The tunnel eventually ends at a half-open stone door. I squeeze through sideways to enter a circular chamber, spanning the size of 2 basketball courts. A dozen complete skeletons lie scattered across the cold floor, each one completely different and totally bizarre. One skeleton is especially slender and delicate, with vine-like patterns carved intricately into every bone. It immediately reminds me of Celine the elf. My chest tightens up for a brief second, but the weapons in here are absolute chef's kiss. Complete battle sabers and heavy two-handed long swords. Ornate longbows alongside jet black spears. Vicious double-bladed axes are everywhere, alongside wands embedded with dark, glowing gemstones. Every single piece remains in pristine condition. There's even a half-height kite shield, featuring a fierce dragon engraved on it. created using some kind of black metal inlay work. And resting in the corner is a massive dwarf warhammer. The hammerhead is bigger than Iron Domes combined, yet the rune style is identical to what I've seen in the dwarf. King's Hall, reading "The Forge Fire Never Dies" on the handle. Written ancient dwarvish script. I'm honestly having a full archaeological Christmas right now. Spatial rings are another great find, along with storage pouches scattered around the bodies. One dark red ring catches my eye in particular, standing out completely from all the others. I stash that single piece away separately, and then I vacuum up all the rest of the loot. That's when I finally spot what's sitting dead center in the chamber. A raised circular platform featuring a metallic stand, cradling a glowing green orb about the size of a fist. It's neither jade nor standard emerald, instead looking like some kind of semi-translucent crystal packed with dense green light particles slowly swirling around deep inside. As soon as my flashlight beam sweeps across it, those tiny specks instantly flare up brighter, acting totally reactive to the illumination. Oh great, this item is screaming major plot item vibes. I strip every single remaining scrap of loot off the stone floor. Weapons, armor, and even those runic horns I aggressively pry straight out of the skulls. My bad, dead guys. Only then do I finally creep toward the mysterious orb. My trembling hand reaches out, and right before my fingertips make contact, a tidal wave of pure, unadulterated terror crashes right into me from the platform. Ha ha ha. A booming voice suddenly erupts inside my brain cavity, dripping with ancient, deranged cackling. I freeze, completely stiff, my clothes instantly drenched in a freezing layer of cold sweat. After countless ages, right on the verge of my final fading, a living soul finally steps foot in here. The voice echoes harshly through my mind, with the sheer arrogance of a landlord. Once I drain your vital life force clean, I'll finally buy enough time to shatter this final seal. The heavens truly haven't given up on me yet. It feels like the crushing weight of the entire universe decided to slam down right onto my chest, forcing my knees to buckle hard beneath me. My teeth are clacking together uncontrollably in a wild rhythm, while sweat streams down my face in actual rivers. I desperately try to speak up, but all that manages to squeak out is a pathetic little whimper. Internally, I'm just thinking, great. This is it. I'm about to bite the dust yet again. Well, at least I'll respawn safely back at my shop. Then, out of nowhere, that booming voice abruptly cuts off. Huh. Confusion washes over it. Wait a minute. This doesn't add up at all. How on earth can you be this weak? Someone who is pathetically weak like this should literally never be able to slip past the combined seal of the 4 races. Total weaklings are physically barred from ever stepping foot in this place. This is entirely impossible. Human. Still, I'm starting to find you sort of interesting. The suffocating pressure suddenly lifts just a fraction, allowing me to claw at the edge of the platform and gasp wildly, acting like I just sprinted a marathon underwater. Are you supposed to be a living person or some spooky ghost? I wheeze out, stop trying to scare people out of nowhere like that. Don't you realize I'm a massive coward? You are quite amusing for a mere human. The voice remarks, sounding genuinely entertained now. Do you seriously have no clue who I am? How on earth would I know if you're a real person? A wandering spirit or what? Fascinating. You don't even know my identity, yet you still had the guts to wander in here? You think I actually want to come down here? I literally just ended up trapped here by pure accident. By pure accident? That's flat out impossible. The entity's tone turns genuinely baffled. The external barrier seal was personally cast by the 4 greatest ruling races of the entire continent, working in unison, meaning anyone falling below a specific power threshold, you honestly stand 0 chance of stepping foot inside. As a total newbie who hasn't even cleared beginner rank, human, getting close to the seal's threshold is way out of your league, let alone shattering right through it. This whole situation makes 0 sense, but hey buddy, welcome to my crazy life. Random dimensions keep pulling me in for unexpected drop-ins. My targeting system has absolute garbage quality control. Dropping onto a random beach was last week's adventure, while landing straight in your cursed dungeon is today's special. Things just happen, though I can't realistically explain how interdimensional travel works to an ancient sealed evil entity, so staying completely quiet is my best move. An icy, starving malice drips from the shifting shadows. Weakness is weakness, but I will gladly devour whatever scrap walks in. Total vengeance will be mine the second I break free. My dark legions will march to conquer Aldous once more, and wipe every last one of you out. Right now, you're going to be my meal. A terrifying suction force yoinks my body straight onto the platform. I slam hard against the metal stand, with enough impact to knock the absolute breath out of me. And then, some unseen force starts vacuuming my life force away. I can feel it draining as my arms turn freezing cold, and my vision gets super blurry. Slipping from my numb fingers, the flashlight clatters loudly against the floor, marking death number, wait, lost count. Whatever, I close my eyes. Fine, die, respawn, and try again. It's just gonna sting for a second. Suddenly, a wave of cozy warmth flares up inside me, fighting back against all this freezing death energy. Something dormant deep within my chest abruptly boots up, radiating scorching heat like a miniature sun igniting, and oh man. That ancient voice shifts from sheer triumph to absolute panic in a split second. Impossible. What is that? No. Stop. The high-pitched scream gets cut off midair, like someone just smashed the mute button. Total, eerie silence follows. Drenched in cold sweat, I lie completely flat on the platform, gasping desperately like a fish flopping on a dock, while my head feels like it's splitting open with agony. My temples are throbbing intensely, as if something feral is trying to claw out of my skull. I just stay pinned there for a long stretch of time. Eventually, my heavy breathing starts to steady. The shaking of my legs stops, and I drag myself upright. That terrifying, booming voice has vanished completely, leaving zero trace like it never even existed. What has happened? Was it something on me? The beast tooth necklace? The mysterious medallion? Some hidden trinket just scared an ancient god so badly. It screamed and instantly perished. We are talking about an entity sealed away by 4 mighty races, joining forces together. A monster that kept bragging about leading grand armies to conquer the entire continent. Yet something attached to little old me, Chung Dong, the guy who can't even finish a basic combat or a cycle without getting his elbow completely stuck, literally made that terrifying thing nope out of existence and evaporate. My brain is flooded with questions and absolutely zero answers. Stooping down, I pick up my flashlight and notice the metal stand is covered in dense spiderweb cracks, stretching from base to tip. I reach out for the green orb, and the very second my fingertips brush against it, a soothing wave of cool, refreshing energy surges straight through my entire body, instantly restocking every ounce of vitality that was just sucked out. Sipping ice water right now feels like stumbling through a desert for a whole week straight. Wild stuff, so I grab the orb right off the stand. The exact split second it comes free, that metal stand lets out a loud snap and totally disintegrates into fine gray powder. Resting right in my palm is the green orb, while its internal light particles shine much brighter now and pulse steadily with a slow heartbeat rhythm. Straight into my spatial ring it goes, no hesitation. VIP corner stash. Never mix this with the regular loot. Scanning the whole chamber one more time, just in case. Hoping for some hidden exit, but finding zilch. Solid stone walls surround me everywhere. Smacking against them hard with my trusty, entrenching shovel yields only bedrock, so I plop down right by the platform, pulling out some compressed biscuits and water from my ring to comfortably wait out that automatic return timer. Hungry for biscuits, thirsty for water, simple life. Feeling sleepy, I lean back against the cold wall to nap, surrounded by a bunch of ancient warrior skeletons. This is seriously my everyday reality now, and when bored, I grind my combat aura to pass the time. Sitting totally cross-legged, I circulate the energy exactly how Iron Dome showed me. It has genuinely gotten way stronger since day one. That warm current is crystal clear to me now, without even needing to close my eyes anymore. Pushing it through both arms 3 solid times. It still catches a bit right at my elbow joint. Though the stutter gets shorter every single try, major progress. Reviewing my loot inventory, multiple unopened spatial rings. Finally crafted weapons that totally outclass dwarf-made gear. That special dark red ring right there, alongside the dark gold. Great sword that weighs as much as an actual human. Runic horns, the ancient dwarf war hammer, and yes, of course, the super mysterious green orb. Iron Dome is totally going to lose his mind checking this loot out. After what feels like an absolute eternity, I am just dozing against the stone wall when that familiar white light finally blooms upward, starting right from my boots. Finally, flashlight off, mission accomplished. Eyes shut tight, consciousness completely fading out. Waking up safely back in the storage room. Body check, totally fine. Item check, everything is there. Sitting on the edge of my cot, I start deep in thought. 4 major races teamed up to seal that thing away. Those 4 races being elves, dwarves, humans, and beast folk, which adds up to precisely 4, representing the absolute most powerful and intelligent civilizations across the oldest continent, all joining forces simply to lock away one single entity. While me, a random interdimensional commuter here, packing the combat power of a soggy wet napkin, somehow managed to teleport right inside the seal, accidentally woke up the ancient entity, and then something on my person literally scared it half to death, before it could even eat me alive. That random medallion from the dragon's nest unlocked the tunnel door. Was that seriously a coincidence too? What even is that medallion anyway? Flipping open my notebook, I quickly jot down every detail. Finishing up, I lean my head way back, shut my eyes tight, and whisper 2 words to the ceiling. That was completely unhinged. The oldest continent is genuinely packed with endless wonders. Stepping into the bustling tax office, the clerk behind the glass partition gives my 7 million yuan declaration form a harsh glare, acting like I just slid a ransom demand across the counter. Doing killer business already. Boss Chong, you literally just opened doors, and you're already flexing this kind of cash. I push the official bank statements across the desk, sporting the chillest poker face I can muster. Just caught a massive break with a few fat orders. Every single paper is legit, prompting her to stamp the whole stack, hand over my receipt, and keep her lips totally sealed. Even though she stays quiet, her intense gaze screams. This dude is either a total financial wizard or a sketchy criminal mastermind. If you only knew the half of it, lady, since I am running a low-key import-export empire, trading straight with underground dwarves, you'd honestly need a brand new government form. Popping back outside under the harsh afternoon sun, I pause on the stone steps to gaze up at the open sky, thinking, there's way too much red tape in this country. I need to wipe out my old debts. And jet overseas ASAP to build a bulletproof cover story. Warehouse hunting is next on the agenda. Cruising out to the industrial suburbs in a rented box truck, I scope out 3 different properties. The winner turns out to be tucked away at the very end of the storage district. 480 square meters of floor space, towering 6-meter ceilings, and an electric roller door, plus sturdy basic shelving and solid ventilation. The landlord is a bald, 50-something dude who is aggressively chewing beetle nut while mumbling through the lease clauses, like his cheeks are stuffed with marbles. 32 grand a month, 3 months deposit plus 1. 6-month minimum contract, and utilities are entirely on you. Without missing a beat, I sign the papers and wire the funds, pocketing the keys to my brand new operational staging ground for this wild cross-dimensional logistics empire. Returning to the shop hits me with a harsh reality check. My entire legal revenue stream consists of just one single closed deal, which is the lucrative Shao family armor contract. 7 million sounds like an absolute fortune until you deduct heavy taxes, pending debt repayments, and steep warehouse overhead. I'm probably left with around 1 million flat, and at the rapid rate, I'm burning through supplies for each portal jump, pulling over 10 grand per trip. That pile of cash is going to vanish in a thin air. This storefront desperately needs to look like a legitimate enterprise, because right now, it's literally just a cash-burning pit with a fancy sign out front. The ultimate fix? Head overseas. I'll pretend to source exotic crafts and rare specialty goods from international foreign markets, secretly smuggling otherworldly artifacts right in, alongside ordinary legal imports. Doing it this way nets me authentic customs records, official shipping receipts, and verified supplier invoices, leaving a comprehensive paper trail that scales up seamlessly so that no nosy auditor can poke holes in my story. Snapping back to action, I jot down overseas trip in my notebook and underline it twice for emphasis. Later that afternoon, the entryway chime suddenly jingles. Ijio Cho strolls straight in wearing her signature gray hoodie, dark pants, and trusty canvas briefcase. She casts a casual glance at the elven silver candlestick and heavy dwarf metal vase I've put out on exhibition display, grabs a cold bottle of water from the fridge, and drops 2 coins neatly onto the counter. Such a classic Ijio Cho entrance. Before long, we end up lingering outside the shop doorway, puffing on cigarettes while people watching on the sidewalk, attracted by the buzzing antique fair, currently taking over the exhibition center. The spot right next door keeps foot traffic pretty steady. As a stray ash falls, I figure I might as well casually stir the pot. Miss ye those ancient texts your institute dug up down in South America? Do they tie back to any known Earth civilizations, like cuneiform or oracle bone script? Mid-drag, her hand holding the cigarette freezes. A long, heavy silence hangs before she takes a slow pull, lets out the smoke, and answers in the most deadpan tone imaginable. Zero connection whatsoever, totally independent. Not a single evolutionary lineage traces back to it. From any known civilization on record. Not Egyptian, not Sumerian, not Indus Valley, not Oraclebone, not Mayan, absolutely nothing. Locking eyes with me, she adds. It is an independently evolved symbol system. Yet its linguistic structure is shockingly mature. Far from primitive, it reads like a writing system that spent thousands of years developing. After 6 solid months of picking apart preserved symbol clusters, our linguistics experts concluded that its entire grammatical structure refuses to match any language on Earth. And I do not mean we just haven't found a match yet. It literally cannot fit into any known linguistic framework. With a brief pause, she says that is why we go by the name Unknown Ancient Civilization Research Institute. Some things simply have nothing to do with Earth civilizations. Taking another drag, I keep my mouth shut. She puts out her cigarette in the ashtray, grabs her briefcase, gives me a nod, and walks out. Watching her vanish around the corner, all the puzzle pieces suddenly click in my head. She is done interrogating me at this point. She is putting her cards face up. Her institute already knows this stuff isn't from around here, meaning they aren't going to blow my cover. Instead, they want to use me as their golden ticket to these non-Earth artifacts. Just like that, I went from a suspect to a recruit without even signing a single piece of paperwork. By evening, a sleek black Audi A8 pulls up while I am loading up the truck. Leaning on his cane, Grandpa Xiao steps out first, with Xiao Lihai trailing right behind him. Acting like an obedient golden retriever. Moving at glacier speed, the old man strolls through my shop, scanning every single item in sight, until his gaze locks dead onto a decorative long sword resting in the corner. You see, back when I hauled those 3 armor sets back from the Dwarf Kingdom, I also grabbed 3 matching swords. 2 long ones and a short one. Xiao Lihai bought the armor bundle along with 1 long sword, leaving the other 2 propped in the corner purely as decorations, without even slapping price tags on them. Planting himself right in front of that specific blade, Grandpa Xiao practically goes into a trance. With his reading glasses slid on, his fingers are busy tracing the vine engravings and scrutinizing every forging line. Spotting this, Xiao Lihai immediately pulls me off to the side. Look, my grandpa has this total obsession with ancient weaponry. Once he spots a masterpiece, he simply cannot walk away. Can you custom make another sword for him too? Sure. Do you have any specific requirements in mind? Nothing too crazy, just keep the same style as the armor. Only make it a bit shorter and lighter. Anything overly heavy is clearly too much for the old guy to handle. Your craftsman needs to be instructed to use his own best judgment. A deposit of 50,000 is transferred by him right after that. As my phone buzzes, a quick glance at the alert is thrown by me, while inside my head, another tier gets added straight to my overseas vacation budget. Setting the sword down at last, Grandpa Joel drifts over toward me and drops this heavy statement. Young Chong, this metalwork is straight up mind-blowing. Having spent most of my years collecting artifacts, forging of this caliber has never once crossed my path. It feels like some total paradigm shift completely foreign to our world. You should drop by our place for tea sometime soon. Some kind of paradigm shift we simply don't have around here. The gaze of this old-timer is way sharper than the whole research lab of Yi Jikyo. Where it originated doesn't matter to him in the slightest. He just knows it doesn't mesh with anything currently in existence on this planet. Pulling away down the street, the Audi leaves, while I linger in the doorway, thinking to myself, curiosity is his vibe right now, but the day suspicion hits him is the exact moment things get super messy. All those spatial rings finally pop into my head, alongside every single storage pouch, pillage looted from deep inside that skeleton chamber, which are still resting completely untouched inside my very own ring. Out across my mattress, they're spread by me. 7 spatial rings alongside 4 weathered leather pouches. So ancient are those pouches that their leather surface is cracked and flaking apart. Immediately grabbing my attention is a striking dark red ring, different in color and entirely unique in texture. An ultra-fine circle of runic engravings decorates the surface in a script matching neither Dwarven nor Elven writing, far older, much stranger, and entirely unrecognizable. An attempt is made by me to push my consciousness inside it. The very second my energy brushes the exterior, a soft repelling force bounces me right back out again. resembling some password-locked system politely declaring, "Access denied." The remaining 6 rings and 4 pouches are tested next, yielding the exact same outcome all across the board. Either there is zero reaction whatsoever, or an inner space can be faintly sensed, though opening it proves impossible because past imprints left by the original owners have probably failed to fade away yet, or perhaps specific chance or matching keys are required. Forcing these open is definitely not happening, should any hidden defensive mechanisms be present inside, and accidentally trigger right here in my cramped storage nook. My entire shop along with half the antique district goes boom. Everything gets bundled up securely and tucked away, deep down inside the farthest corner of my own spatial ring. Let future Chunk Dan deal with that headache. Crossing over tonight happens without any fresh supplies packed, since getting yanked over to that bizarre sealed palace during my last trip meant those goods never reached the dwarves' hands. All those previous supplies remained safely stored inside my ring, coupled with that massive pile of ancient looted weapons. Buying extra gear is completely unnecessary. Beast Tooth necklace gets slipped on, glowing crystal grip tight, eyes shut at 11:58 p.m. sharp. Midnight strikes, and conscious awareness blinks off. Opening my eyes, the heavy scent of pine resin and dry grass floods my nose. Underneath my boots, a plush carpet of fallen pine needles sinks downward. Towering conifer trees loom high overhead, as silver threads of moonlight pierce through the dense canopy. Far away on the horizon, the crimson silhouettes of the dwarf mountains loom darkly. I've actually nailed it this time, thanks to some majorly clutch teleportation RNG. For once I activate the positioning crystal, and a triple-layer glow flashes with a spatial ripple, and boom. Spatial ripples spark and flare before everything settles. Suddenly I'm standing right inside the king's hall. Apart from a couple of quiet dwarf guards, the spacious chamber is completely empty. I immediately ask where Iron Dome can be found. The king has headed down to the experimental fields. I head outside toward the open fields, and the crazy sight awaiting me makes me freeze dead in my tracks. The hillside that used to be totally barren dirt has completely transformed into a gorgeous green checkerboard of neat rows, bursting with thriving potato plants. Vibrant green leaves ripple gracefully in the breeze like ocean waves. Busy dwarves are working everywhere, weeding diligently, watering crops, and logging meticulous records. Iron Anvil is squatting low at the very edge of a crop row, frantically scribbling notes onto aged sheepskin parchment, with the intense focus of a grad student defending his final thesis. Iron Dome stands proudly up on the high ground, surveying his glorious potato kingdom. A brisk mountain wind ruffles right through his braided beard. He spins around, spots me instantly, and breaks into a massive, beaming grin. Brother Chum, every single sprout actually made it. All of them look even more uniform than our first 5 acres. Not a single dead plant is anywhere in sight next to him. As I look back at what used to be doubted with, will these things even grow? All that prior skepticism has transformed into endless rows of healthy, green life, and honestly, this satisfaction hits different. We actually pulled this off, a random guy from modern Earth alongside a dwarf king. Literally solved an entire civilization's food crisis, using simple potatoes. I unload all the remaining seed potatoes from my magic ring. Iron Anvil inspects them closely and gets visibly stoked. Denser eye buds mean we can get way more planting coverage. Next, I hand over a variety of fresh vegetable seeds. Those bright commercial packages look absolutely ridiculous and out of place against the rugged medieval mountain backdrop. Iron Dome pinches a single cabbage seed between his heavy fingers, squinting at it against the daylight, as if he's examining a rare diamond. The elves usually grow something similar. Leafy greens are definitely their jam, but we dwarves have exclusively cultivated cave mushrooms forever. Zero sunlight required, so you're seriously telling me this tiny speck can actually grow up under the open sun? Let's put it to the test then. Clear out a small plot right next to the potato fields. With their super short growing cycle, cabbages can be ready for harvest in just 1 month. If this experiment pans out, dwarves won't just have potatoes anymore. They'll have fresh salads too, Iron Dome declares as he hands a seed bag over to a young dwarf miner and give him a firm pat on the shoulder. The young dwarf cradles that precious bag of seeds with the intense solemnity of someone handling live explosives. His determined expression clearly says, "I will defend these precious vegetable seeds with my very life." Returning inside the king's hall, Iron Dome immediately summons both Iron Anvil and Ironstone. They show up in a hurry, with Iron Anvil arriving barefoot, caked in dried mud across the soles of his feet, straight from the fields, while Ironstone still has glowing sparks tangled in his beard and radiates a strong scent of charcoal. He was plainly dragged away right from the middle of his forge work. Amidst the swinging motion, the relic was placed by me right onto the cold stone table. It was the legendary, time-worn dwarf warhammer, with a deep resonance. A heavy thud hits, rippling vibrations all through the grand hall. This wasn't just standard steel clashing against basic rock. It sounded deeply resonant, carrying centuries of age. Both Iron Dome and Iron Anvil stepped up in unison, right at the exact same moment. Their palms hovered right over the grip, refusing to make contact. Hesitation struck them, causing a quick retreat, before hovering right back, as if the weapon might snap at them. Leaning forward so closely, Iron Anvil brought his nose nearly flat against the metallic weapon's face. A magnifying lens was raised over his scarred, calloused, burn-scarred hands. Hands that had previously forged thousands of heavy armaments began gently tracing the glowing rune patterns, with the extreme tenderness of a worshipper touching a sacred artifact. Muttering under his breath, he decoded the ancient symbols one by one, until finally, his eyes landed on the hidden forging inscription, etched neatly at the base of the handle. Reading those words made him freeze completely. His expression warped instantly from sheer focus into absolute shock. The exact type of shock that screamed, "This item literally shouldn't exist. This warhammer was crafted by my own ancestor." Iron Anvil's voice was shaking like crazy. Even though he's low-key the toughest dwarf artisan I know, hands that have built thousands of legendary weapons were standing right there, trembling like a leaf in the wind. This exact forging inscription, "The forge fire never dies, cause your ironstone's hammer," matches the exact formatting of the carved text, found on the legacy hammer my father handed down to me. That distinct family crest, right at the tail end, could only be carved by direct bloodline descendants. This is indisputably my family's custom forging signature. No other artisan across the entirety of Aldous could ever duplicate it. An absolute, dead silence fell over the stone hall. Stepping forward slowly, Iron Dome stared down at the massive warhammer. Turbulent emotions were clearly swirling deep behind his eyes. Yet he forced himself to keep his composure intact. With red-rimmed eyes, Iron Anvil cradled the weapon carefully, as though he were holding a long-lost child. Figured it was finally time for me to drop some context. This hammer was discovered by me inside a forgotten palace, hidden behind a sealed tunnel completely packed with ancient skeletons, humans, elves, dwarves, beast folk, winged ones, horned ones, literally every single race you could ever imagine. At the very far end of that passage sat a wide circular chamber, surrounded by about a dozen complete skeletal remains. Right in the middle of them lay the hammer. Then, I started pulling random gear out of my spatial ring, acting pretty much like a fantasy Santa Claus. An ancient dark gold tier sword dropped onto the table with a loud clunk, followed by an ornate longbow wrapped in vine carvings. Its elven string was long gone, but the frame remained stunningly gorgeous. A jet black, three-pronged spear forged from some weird bone metal, hybrid material. A double-bladed axe bearing beast folk totems along the grip appeared next, alongside a magic wand embedded with dark gemstones, and a heavy kite shield engraved with a detailed dragon design, featuring every single scale individually hand-inlaid. Swarming around the wooden table came the dwarf elders, while even the two guards standing by the doorway craned their necks forward, just to catch a glimpse as Iron Dome picked up the dragon shield and gave one of the metal scales a light tap with his finger. "This unique metal has been lost to Aldous for ages," he stated, his voice sounding eerily calm. "Obsidian steel is what people call it. Dragon breath was used to temper this meteorite iron. Its durability surpasses fine steel, yet it feels much lighter. Ancient dwarf archives actually make note of it, though the specific forging recipes vanished completely 10 millennia ago. At least 20 dragon scales are embedded in this shield, each one having been meticulously inlaid by hand ages ago. I just low-key pulled a 10,000-year-old artifact straight out of my magic backpack, as if it were just a random road trip souvenir. What on earth was that palace anyway?" I asked as Iron Dome set the shield aside, dragged over a heavy stone stool, and rested the war hammer right on the table. "That ruined palace you stumbled upon is without a doubt the legendary Death God's Hall, with the allied army of 4 races locked away. The undead overlord back in the ancient wars. 4 races sounds sus, but I kept my cool and stayed silent. Iron Dome's piercing gaze swept across. All the ancient relics scattered on the wood, before locking dead onto my face per Aldous customs. Whatever treasures you haul out of seal are legally your loot. He hesitated for a second, his massive palm gently brushing the warhammer's grip. Would you be willing to give this hammer back to the dwarfs? We'll trade you literally anything for it. This masterpiece is the Forge Warhammer, the ultimate emblem of every single dwarf monarch in history. Every single king proudly wielded this weapon, until my forefather marched into the Death God's Hall and perished there alongside it. Ever since it vanished, I've had to make do with this replica. Sure, it's master-grade quality, but it doesn't even hold a candle to the true Forge Warhammer, not by a long shot. This was Iron Dome speaking, the absolute unit who could crush a beast's skull barehanded, now sounding vulnerable in a way I had never witnessed before. Gone was the proud king giving orders to an underling, replaced by a desperate friend begging for his family heirloom. I didn't even skip a beat, bro. Take it, I said, shoving the heavy weapon right into his arms. Your clan has always treated me like one of your own. Stop talking nonsense. It's yours now. Iron Dome stood frozen in disbelief, before flashing a massive grin, grabbing the hammer, and leaping up. He hoisted it high overhead, and the weapon immediately reacted. Upon sensing the authentic royal bloodline, it burst into a deep, crimson aura that instantly illuminated the entire chamber. Every single dwarf in the hall gasped aloud in awe. That legendary hammer had waited 10 long millennia for a true king to wield it once more. Starting from this exact moment, you are officially an honorary elder of our race, declared Iron Dome while sliding a special token into my palm. Keep this safe, he added as he settled back down, poured us both some stiff drinks, and finally dived into the lore of the ancient war. More than 10,000 years ago, interdimensional invaders suddenly dropped onto the Aldous continent. Another world, huh? I kept a totally straight face, thinking it takes one to know one. They apparently went by the moniker of the undead race, though they bore no resemblance to the mindless, shambling skeletons of the typical undying faction. These guys were living beings of flesh and blood, resembling humans and elves in appearance. They carried the harrowing power of death within their veins. Thriving on decay, every step they took turned lush forests into desolate wastelands. Pure rivers quickly degraded into thick pus. Lifeless corpses snapped their eyes back open to fight for the enemy side. A sickening, eternal stench hung heavily in the suffocating air. The 4 distinct races initially fought their own separate battles, completely divided. Elven magic proved totally useless against this relentless death corruption. Human cavalry forces were completely crushed by endless waves of reanimated corpses. The wild berserker rage of the beast folk meant absolutely nothing against an army that refused to stay dead. We dwarves slammed our mountain fortress gates shut, retreating underground for years, where we survived like rats scurrying through dark mining tunnels. Eventually, a visionary elven king rallied everyone together. His true name has been completely lost to history, while elven archives might still hold the answer. Our sacred dwarf records only refer to him as the Verdant Leaf King. Wielding powerful life magic, he spearheaded the unified allied forces, pushing the main undead horde back, inch by inch, right into a treacherous valley fortress. After that tactical push, he and our own dwarf king, Kaiser Ironstone, executed a joint sealing ritual unlike any other. Nothing of this magnitude had ever been attempted before or since. Elven life magic, intricate dwarf runic forging, human war barriers, and beast folk shaman totems. These 4 disparate powers were forced together to forge a barrier, tough enough to lock down the entire fortress for good. Half of the combined allied army perished during that brutal clash. The proud elves took the hardest blow. Following that war, they could never reclaim their glorious Golden Age territories, forcing them to retreat deep into the secluded elven forest. Countless master forgers were lost by the dwarves, taking ancient runic crafting secrets with them to the grave forever. The legendary Forge Warhammer vanished without a trace. Humans naturally rose to prominence, simply because they managed to keep the highest survivor count. Bouncing back rapidly due to their high birth rates, the beast folk also recovered. Iron Dome takes a massive swig of his drink to wet his throat. Look at the geopolitical landscape today. humans form a massive majority. Beast folk are the chaotic troublemakers, and elves and dwarves are just ancient races, hiding away in remote corners. 10,000 years ago, the exact opposite was true, as elven, magical civilization and dwarf metalworking dominance sat firmly at their peak. Human city-states were mere vassals under the grand elven empire, while beast folk remained disorganized nomadic tribes, wandering the monster mountains until one brutal war changed everything. We didn't actually conquer the undead menace. Instead, we traded half our civilization's population just for a seal. He places the heavy hammer gently across his lap, his calloused hands slowly tracing the glowing runes carved on the handle. My brave ancestor fell during that exact conflict, and his personal hammer vanished right along with him. For generations, we assumed both were entirely swallowed up by the magic seal. He was the one who led that final sealing strike. So that was totally his vibe. Looking up at me, he flashes a soft, reminiscent smile. I honestly never thought you would manage to bring it back. Right after that, I pull out the ancient metal medallion and place it firmly on the table. Iron Dome's face drops into a completely blank expression. Not just a composed poker face, but a total system error kind of blank. The legendary Dwarf King, who has seen it all, just froze in disbelief. Where did you even score this piece from? Uncovered it deep inside a black dragon's lair. With a heavy grip, Iron Dome lifts up the medallion and turns it completely over to inspect the reverse side. There rests a scratch so faint and blurred that you totally ghost right past it without knowing the exact spot. His seasoned finger lands on the mark immediately. I carved this exact sign back when I was just a kid. He murmurs under his breath. Gone is the thundering sovereign tone he usually carries, replaced by a whisper that feels heartbreakingly brittle. Left unattended on the table, my father had kept this very medallion. While I was messing around with a tiny toy hammer, trying to act just like him, I accidentally struck the metal surface, leaving the scar behind. Instead of blowing a fuse, Father just chuckled and told me with a warm smile, this family heirloom might eventually find its way into my hand someday. So making an early impression wasn't the end of the world. As his calloused fingers roll the medallion over and over, that remains etched in my mind as the final time he ever smiled at me. Following that brief moment, he vanished for good. Oh man, seriously. My chest is literally aching right now. This identical medallion once belonged to Iron Dome's father, whose sudden disappearance left a gaping void, before the relic somehow ended up hidden inside a dragon's hoard. And now I brought the piece back home, bundled together with a legendary ancestral warhammer, pulled straight from the sealed crypt, where his grandfather perished 10 millennia ago. With a slow motion, he pushes the medallion back across the table toward me. Lost within the dreaded Death God's Hall, my ancestor breathed his last breath. Yet thanks entirely to your efforts today, I finally hold the missing clue to my father's final footsteps. That sacred war hammer resting inside the Death God's Hall must have been what my old man was hunting down. Right before he dropped off the face of the earth, Iron Dome abruptly stands and plants both heavy hands firmly onto my shoulders. An eternal debt that can never be paid off is owed to you by our entire dwarf lineage. In unison, every elder seated in the grand hall rises to their feet, while Iron Anvil clutches the ancestral warhammer tightly, his eyes bloodshot and swollen, though this time he refuses to avert his gaze, locking eyes straight with mine as the surrounding elders bow in deep silence. Never in my life have I found myself trapped in such a high-stakes vibe, leaving me totally clueless about what to utter or how to act. My anxious fingers keep nervously tapping against my kneecaps, until finally, after agonizingly scrambling through my brain for words, I end up blurting out awkwardly, "Can you guys seriously chill out with the staring contest? Because y'all are creeping me out big time." Lifting the small metal token up once more, Iron Dome scrutinizes every intricate detail for a lengthy moment. Your dramatic appearance in all this was probably no mere coincidence after all. It looks like you were chosen by destiny. With a gentle motion, he drops the medallion straight back into my palm. A deep spiritual bond has already been forged between you and this artifact, given that you utilized it to unlock the impenetrable barrier door, proving it has officially accepted you as its master. Raising no objections whatsoever, the ancestral spirits of Aldous give their silent blessing. Hold onto it securely, along with all those ancient divine armaments as well. Feeling the chilling weight of the metal resting against my skin, I grip the medallion tightly in my hand. My mind flashes back to that exact second, when I jammed it into the stony wall groove. Down in the pitch-black shadows had that weird resonance never clicked. That heavy gateway might have remained sealed away forever. Yet I had merely yanked this random trinket out of a dragon's loot pouch and tossed it carelessly into my backpack without giving it a second thought, completely oblivious to the fact that it had been low-key waiting for me all along. I hand over all the food and supplies I brought: rice, liquor, oil, and flour, along with every shattered weapon, battered armor piece, and tunnel scrap. The dwarves get literally everything delivered straight to them. Ironstone is handed. The custom armor specs sent over by J.O. Lehigh. A fresh batch of custom armor is handed back to me, along with the weapons and jewelry I'd previously ordered. Then Iron Dome calls for their absolute best stuff to be brought out, known as Black Rock Spirit. This is the underground royal family's private stash, matured over a solid century. Pitch black and intensely viscous. The liquid barely even sloshes inside the heavy copper mug, reserved exclusively for the most sacred traditions. Iron Dome fills up my cup, pours one for himself, and hoists it high in honor of my ancestor, dedicated to my father, and raised for every warrior who perished in the ancient war. Plus a special toast to you, Chungdong, my brother who tracked down and brought back the legendary Forge War Hammer, the ultimate symbol of our people. Gazing across the crowded hall, I lock eyes with each dwarf face. Iron Dome, standing tall as the unstoppable warrior king. Iron Fury, the 400-year-old Grand Elder, who previously gifted me his father's ring. Iron Anvil, recognized as the greatest living forge master, who cradles the ancestral hammer tightly against his chest like a child. Finally reunited with a long-lost treasure. An Iron Stone, the reclusive craftsman who rarely leaves his forge, giving me a deep, silent bow of respect. Though I've only crossed paths with these folks a few months ago, certain bonds simply cannot be measured by mere time. Staying completely silent, I raise my cup into the air, and down the entire thing in one go as the Black Rock Spirit hits my throat. Like swallowing a white-hot branding iron. A searing burn instantly shoots from my tonsils, straight down to my stomach lining, forcing tears to practically blast out of my eyes, though I somehow manage to hold them back against the intense pain. The triumphant return of the ancestral hammer plunges the entire dwarf kingdom into wild celebration. Drink after drink goes down my hatch, until the room tilts completely sideways, and my consciousness fades out entirely. A sudden flash of white light pulls my awareness right back to reality, completely blackout drunk and probably drooling all over my folding cot. Yet right as my awareness slips away, a nagging thought echoes loudly inside my heavily buzzed brain. Will that terrifying undead race from 10,000 years ago ever attempt to invade all this once again? And if they actually do, does the death scream of that sealed leader I personally witnessed imply the ancient seal is growing weaker? Well, those are problems for sober Chungdong, because current Chungdong is officially checked out. Around noon, I finally drag myself awake from my interdimensional hangover. Let me tell you, that Black Rock Spirit hits different. And by different, I mean it literally feels like a burly dwarf used my skull for target practice on an anvil. That nagging question about the undead race is still bouncing around my head, like some annoying, unwanted pop-up notification. But I quickly shake it off for future me to deal with later. Right now, Kermie has a shop to run, so I tear into the new shipment of dwarf-made goods and start arranging everything neatly on display shelves. I gotta give credit where it's due. Ironstone completely outdid himself this time around, crafting an incredible Zodiac series featuring 12 distinct constellation-themed silver armor sets, Ares complete with sculpted curling ram horn helmets, Leo sporting fierce main-style shoulder guards, and Scorpio outfitted with wicked, spiked scorpion tail bracers. Each piece is painstakingly hand-forged, combining that signature elven finesse with a rugged dwarf metal fusion style. They look absolutely insane in person. Matching elven silver jewelry fills up the entire top shelf, featuring delicate vine necklaces and leaf earrings, alongside shimmering moonlight bracelets, all glowing softly under the harsh fluorescent lights, giving off total vibes of being pulled straight out of a high-budget fantasy movie prop department. Stepping back a bit, I take a moment to admire my own handiwork. This little shop has seriously leveled up since the days when bottles of mineral water and instant noodles used to sit right next to legendary elven armor, looking like some bizarre interdimensional convenience store. Nowadays, the daily survival supplies are shoved away into a dusty corner, while all the prime real estate is completely taken over by fantasy craftsmanship. I even hung up a hand-painted wooden sign right on the wall, reading private custom hand-forged, with an approximate 15-day production cycle. Just look at me acting like a legit businessman out here. The next couple of weeks settled smoothly into an amazing rhythm. Days are spent running the shop and taking down custom orders, while nights involve teleporting straight to the Dwarf Kingdom to drop off supplies and pick up all the finished custom pieces. Rinse, repeat, and watch the profits roll in. Then the cosplay exhibition happened out of nowhere, and things completely blew up thanks to Xiao Lihai and Xiao Lei, who organized a massive cosplay convention deep within the capital's anime scene. She ended up wearing one of my custom elven silver armor sets, radiating under the bright spotlights on the main stage. The polished silver plates cast this ethereal, glowing halo as camera flashes from the packed audience literally refused to stop flashing for even a second. Xiao Lihai stood right beside her, clutching that decorative greatsword tightly, and looking like the happiest bodyguard on the face of the planet, completely oblivious to the fact that his actual job was just playing accessory to the pretty girl. The photos finally hit the internet, and the comments section instantly went nuclear. People were spamming that it had to be CGI or some elite Japanese custom work, until one certified metalworking expert dropped a massive analysis essay, breaking down the intricate forging patterns and fine engravings, to firmly conclude it was definitely not machine-stamped, before tagging a bunch of well-known ancient weapons. Restoration influencers online, Xiao being the absolute marketing genius that she naturally is, casually slid into the comments with a pricing DM link, causing her inbox to buzz non-stop through the entire night. Within just one short week, 7 or 8 groups of enthusiastic customers showed up right at my doorstep, ranging from famous cosplay celebs to cold weapons collectors, and girls who just wanted those stunning elven jewelry pieces. My absolute favorite visitors were this one couple, where the purple twin-tailed girlfriend picked up a delicate vine necklace and held it up against the store light asking, "Babe, does this look actually good? Would it match that cute white dress I bought recently?" Her boyfriend was standing right next to her the whole time, yet his eyeballs were magnetically locked onto the menacing Scorpio armor set, specifically fixated on that intricate barbtail bracer, leaving him to respond on pure, mindless autopilot. "Yeah, looks great, super pretty." Noticing he wasn't even glancing at her, she followed his line of sight straight to the armor and gave his arm a sharp smack, demanding, "Hey, where are you even looking? I asked you a question about the necklace." He snapped back instantly like a guy jolting awake from deep hypnosis, going, "Huh? Oh man, it looks absolutely stunning. Every single thing fits you like a glove." Before I know it, his gaze drifts right back toward the armor display. With a heavy sigh, she rolls her eyes deep into another dimension, completely checks out from his antics, and turns to me with a decisive nod. "Hey boss, I'll take the vine necklace, the leaf earrings, the moonlight bracelet, and that tricolor crystal ring as well." She bags them up securely while I'm still reaching for carrier bag. Meanwhile, her boyfriend sprints excitedly over to the Scorpio armor. "Boss, what's the damage on this piece? I'm eyeing it for 132 grand, totally hand-forged, right? A 15-day custom turnaround time, you said? Is there any way to rush it because I desperately need it by next week? I'll gladly pay extra, make it a 10-day rush job, tack on a 20,000 surcharge, and consider it done. Take my deposit right this second." He is already scanning the QR code before my sentence even finishes. Standing right behind him, his girlfriend patiently waits, clutching her precious bag of jewelry tightly, and shaking her head with the quiet resignation of a seasoned woman who has long since accepted her inevitable fate. I swear, the moment you spot armor, your brain just completely stops functioning. He clears the payment, lets out a brief victory chuckle, and throws a casual arm around her shoulders. "Babe, just picture me wearing this epic gear at the upcoming convention. We're talking a solid 100% head turn rate. Without a doubt, we're going to be the absolute hottest couple there." As I write out the receipt, I can't help but laugh internally at them. This dynamic duo just dropped an absolute small fortune here, and neither one of them regrets a single thing. Within just 2 weeks, the revenue of my shop blows way past the 10 million mark. The very first order of business, wiping out every single remaining cent of debt completely. Every last credit card is utterly obliterated, alongside every loan and every soul-crushing 3 a.m. panic attack. Staring endlessly at terrifying overdue notices is officially finished. Setting my phone down flat on the wooden counter, I finally exhale deeply, for what genuinely feels like the first time in months. From being brutally scammed into crippling debt by Li Hao, then dodging relentless collection calls and aggressive lawyer letters. Straight to this moment, completely debt-free, and running a wildly booming interdimensional crafting business. Saying it's wild doesn't even begin to cover the reality of it. And speaking of wild, Xiao Lihai's ongoing sibling drama continues to be top-tier entertainment for me. Here is precisely how the whole situation went down. As a trial test run, I had the Master Dwarves forge a batch of ultra-rare gold elven jewelry, exclusive limited edition pieces. The moment Xiao Lihai laid eyes on them, he bought the whole lot immediately and handed them over as a gift to Yunche. True to form, Yunche gracefully accepted the gesture with a soft, understated thank you, and slipped them on as if it were no big deal at all. However, once Xiao Lei caught wind of it, oh boy, things got chaotic. One calm afternoon, Xiao Lihai is hanging out hidden inside my shop, absently playing around with a brand new sword sample, fantasizing out loud about how ridiculously cool he'll look in full battle gear, while remaining completely oblivious to the impending disaster walking through the door. Stepping smoothly into the store comes Xiao Lei, wearing the sweetest, most innocent, and yet most terrifyingly angelic smile that I have ever laid eyes on in my entire human existence. Catching sight of that chilling smile, Xiao Lihai nearly fumbles and drops the heavy sword. Having spent over 2 decades growing up as this girl's brother, he has learned one absolute, unbreakable universal truth. The sweeter her facial expression gets, the heavier the hammer eventually drops. Instantly, the shop atmosphere completely freezes over. Parking myself firmly in place, I'm totally locked in for this upcoming show, drawing out every single syllable deliberately. Xiao Lei speaks like sweet, sticky honey dripping off a sharp blade. Word on the street is you've been playing sugar daddy lately, man. Handing over those ultra-rare golden elven pieces to Cloud Shurjia. Huh? Xiao Lihai's pupils instantly dilate, giving total deer-in-headlights energy, with his eyes darting literally everywhere except at his sister. Oh, come on, why? It was just a couple pieces, totally casual. Honestly, no big deal. Oh, absolutely no big deal. She steps in closer, her smile turning wicked. I was just wondering, does the mighty Xiao Lihai happen to remember he actually has a living, breathing biological sister? Well, of course I remember. His survival instinct instantly kicks into overdrive. Correct answer, she replies with a sweet blink. So here comes my follow-up question. Has your dedicated, always available, and never complaining biological sister ever received even half a piece of golden elven jewelry from you? Direct hit. Massive critical damage. Xiao Lihai's mouth flaps open and shut like a dying fish, leaving 0 words coming out while his eyes frantically scan the room for a non-existent escape route. Behind the counter, I'm chilling with a bag of sunflower seeds, cracking them one by one with my ears fully perked up. Honestly, this is better than any reality TV drama. Xiao Lihai starts shooting me. Desperate SOS glances, whispering, please help me out. I'll literally pay you. I look down at my seeds, counting them slowly. 1, 2, 3. I am basically Switzerland, totally neutral. I refuse to meddle in sibling civil wars, since I'm just here for the show. Totally abandoned by his only potential ally, Xiao Lihai attempts a pathetic excuse. It wasn't even a special gift, it was just a thank you token, because Yunche helped me pick out cosplay outfits, and I was simply showing appreciation. Xiao Lei's smile somehow turns even more toxic, as she whips out her phone, opens her gallery, and shoves the screen right into his face. Oh, for real? Then let's pull up the historical receipts. Who has pulled up to literally every single convention? Acting as your full-time assistant? Who adjusted your heavy shoulder armor? Fixed your awkward skirt plates? Stood on her tiptoes to clip on your cape? And organized countless costume pieces for you? Every single time? The photos feature Xiao Lei running around like mad, fixing his gear and doing all the heavy lifting. Yin, she only shows up in maybe 2 pictures, just casually chilling in the background. The evidence is overwhelming, and the defense has totally crumbled. Xiao Lihai stares blankly at the photo album, his shoulders slumping in complete defeat. You simply cannot argue with a sister who keeps receipts. To make things right, he grits his teeth and orders an entire top-tier set of gold and elven jewelry, including necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring, literally maxed out with the most intricate vine engravings. Suddenly, a brilliant idea pops in his head, and pulling me aside, he whispers, "Hey bro, Gotta have you engrave this on the inside of the bracelet. To my dearest sister, your brother was wrong. I'm looking at it, but that's straight up way too much text. The inner surface of a bracelet is super tiny, meaning the lettering is going to be microscopic. His face suddenly breaks into a super shady grin. Exactly, smaller is totally better here. I want it so ridiculously small. She'll literally need a magnifying glass just to read it. By the time she low-key stumbles upon it. In a couple of weeks, she won't even be mad anymore. This has got to be the ultimate half-baked apology. I just stare blankly at this guy. This is peak human laziness leveled up into an actual art form. Only Xiao Lihai could somehow weaponize font size as a legit apology strategy. When I finally pass this along to Ironstone, the master dwarf craftsman, he just glares at the engraving blueprints. In total bewilderment, he sends his apprentice back to me with a message. You're human. Interpersonal dynamics are way too weird and complicated. Chuckling softly, I fire back with a reply. This right here is called sibling love. The apprentice looks totally lost. Is he actually terrified of his sister? Or does he low-key love her? My exact breakdown. Both at the exact same time, and neither option is off the table. Just as business is booming and life is finally smooth sailing. Someone I never saw coming strolls right into my shop. It's a quiet afternoon while I'm chilling behind the counter, casually checking potato logistics metrics on my phone. The door chimes open and a girl in her early 20s steps inside, wearing a chic cream-colored knit dress. Her long hair neatly pinned back using a sleek silver clip. She radiates a quiet and sophisticated aura, clutching a stylish brown leather handbag. It's Jo Muning. She casually drifts through the store at a very chill pace, her eyes gliding over each item without any rush or judgment, just admiring everything like she's strolling through an art gallery. She eventually halts right in front of the jewelry showcase, which happens to be Ironstone's freshest batch, a complete elven-inspired set featuring a moonstone pendant, necklace, matching ginkgo leaf studs, a hair-thin silver chain bracelet, and a ring embedded with 3 distinct colored crystals. Every single piece shares a unified design philosophy, yet features subtle, individual variations. Boss, can I take a look at these, please? I quickly unlock the glass and slide the display tray right out toward her. She picks up the delicate moonstone necklace, and instead of holding it up against her collarbone, like practically every other customer does, she flips it over and runs her fingertip directly along the solder joint on the silver mounting. Okay, this girl definitely knows her stuff. This solder point wasn't done with electric welding. She observes out loud, and I respond spot on. It's entirely handmade with every piece individually forged. With zero machine processing involved, she gives a nod, picks up the bracelet, and holds it up against the light. The hair-thin silver wires cast a soft, gentle glow, while the twisted patterns are impressively uniform. I have never encountered this specific wire drawing technique before. She remarks thoughtfully, the wire must have been drawn, and then twisted together using at least 3 separate strands, each kept under perfectly equal tension, followed by a careful twisting and annealing process. Mastering this craft legitimately takes decades of hardcore experience. I'm honestly mind-blown right now. Spotting basic hand soldering is easy for tons of folks, yet calling out that specific annealing phase takes someone who actually digs deep into how high-end jewelry gets manufactured at a metallurgical level. Sliding the bracelet and ring onto her wrist and finger, she flashes a soft smile before casually gesturing toward everything left sitting on the tray. I'll take the whole set. Give me one of each, including the necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring. She then drifts over toward another display shelf, picking up a sleek pair of dwarf silver hair clips. Throwing these 2, plus a couple of decorative pieces, an elven floral candlestick, and a dwarf warhammer paperweight. Yeah, grab those 2 as well. Her shopping vibe stands miles apart from anyone else's normal routine. Zero price tag questions. She purely inspects the craftsmanship, decides she's obsessed, and locks it in. While Xiaolei shops with pure hype and loud excitement. Ju Minyoung browses, like she's quietly curating rare artifacts for a private museum exhibit. By the time I finish punching in the numbers, more than a dozen items crowd the glass counter, extending a sleek bank card toward me. She waits while I notice her handbag comes from a low-key, indie domestic luxury label featuring an ultra-subtle design that only true insiders would ever recognize. It fits her low-key personality to a T. Then right after packing everything away neatly, she stays put, reaching deep inside her tote to pull out a tiny velvet pouch and dump out a single gold coin. An exact match to mine, one I let go of months ago, where those sharp wedge-shaped inscriptions shine brightly. Beneath the store lights. Boss Chung, you ought to recognize this piece right here, she says while setting it on the wood. It was originally routed through one of my family's front businesses. Leaning back against the glass counter, I keep totally silent while she holds her ground, choosing instead to point straight at the engraved text. I've had experts run linguistics on this writing, and it doesn't match up with any known civilization, though I actually spotted a remarkably similar script, stamped across a batch of ancient clay tablets, originating from a classified archaeological dig site, hidden somewhere in South America. Could there be a hidden link here, do you think? Alarm bells instantly start blaring inside my head because she didn't just say ancient text. She specifically said clay tablet text. That detail is way too precise, meaning she might have direct ties to Ejikio's underground research circles, Ejikio's Shady Institute, Huang Wenbao's high-stakes coin-buying operations, and Zhao Yuning's elite private collection. All these seemingly random, disconnected entities and events are steadily weaving themselves into a massive spiderweb, all tied together by those exact same relics. I unloaded when I was utterly broke and desperate for cash. Past me really had zero clue what kind of massive domino effect he was kicking off. I quickly default to my trusty old script. I honestly have no clue where those ancient coins came from. Back when I was drowning in debt, liquidating my grandfather's old collection was my only way out. Studying me intently for a long, heavy moment, Zhao Yuning slides the coin back into its velvet pouch and murmurs two quiet words. How interesting. That exact same phrase was dropped by Grandpa Jiao earlier. Wealthy folks. And their sketchy two-word verdicts on my existence. My jaw clenches as I haul her bag down the hallway to the exit. Suddenly she drops a line that freezes me completely in my tracks. Boss Chung, in this day and age, virtually no one remains capable of crafting items at this caliber. Every single piece inside your shop, regardless of its actual creation date, deserves to be the crowning jewel of any major museum exhibit. Yet you've got them sitting in a humble store with random price tags. Either you're totally clueless about their actual worth, or you know damn well what they're worth and simply don't care. My bet is definitely on the latter option. Whenever you're down to chat about where these treasures really originate, my door is always open. She grabs her luggage and strides out into the street. A heavy silence swallows the store. I stand frozen as my brain processes the reality. Grandpa, Xiao has an eye for quality. Yi Jitchu loves digging into deep histories. But Jiang Mining, she sees straight through every single facade and is casually chilling while playing the long game. 3 different personalities. 3 distinct heavy hitters. All closing in tighter and tighter on my massive secret. Meanwhile, I'm stuck grinding out shop duties by daylight, then wormhole jumping to the Dwarf Kingdom under the cover of night, taking care of custom weapon commissions, hauling agricultural spuds, and sweating bullets to avoid getting busted. Running the most absurd underground import empire in human existence. And then out of nowhere, something goes down. That completely fries my mental circuits. I'm rolling my beat-up delivery truck toward the storage depot to pick up a batch of seed potatoes, a totally mundane, mind-numbing errand when my engine suddenly decides to flat-out die. Right on the road shoulder, I smoothly veer over, pop the front hood open, and while poking around the smoking motor, my eyes drift across the pavement to catch an authentic live-action drama unfolding right in front of me. It's none other than Jiang Mining, the stone cold, sees through everything antique guru straight out of my store. She's planted right there in a razor-sharp designer suit, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else on God's green earth. Standing directly opposite her is this total corporate pretty boy. Stiff tailored shirt with not a single strand of hair out of place. Leather kicks buffed to a mirror finish reflecting the gray asphalt. Clutching a massive arrangement of crimson roses against a falling backdrop of crisp autumn foliage. It's giving major cinematic romance vibes. Except, it's easily the most painfully one-sided romantic trap I've ever laid eyes on. This clown is pouring his heart out in a high-stakes public confession to a chick whose facial expression screams, I'm currently being held hostage by basic manners. The dude, Zhang Ziming, is spitting out that textbook elite rich guy script, sounding like a walking AI prompt generated from a billionaire playbook, basically saying, I've been chasing after you for every single year we've crossed paths. I've memorized every little quirky preference of yours, knowing full well your obsession with ancient wedge script gold currency. So I hustle to every domestic gallery auction out there, And I've even had my high-roller international connections, bothering South American private dealers. Just for you, he tilts his chin upward with this smug, self-satisfied grin, as if he just dropped the most jaw-dropping resume flex on the planet. Other chumps might just hand over basic flowers and trinkets, whereas I put down serious legwork. So won't you throw me a bone? Leaning against my truck, I'm low-key dying inside. This guy actually thinks that buying gold coins is the ultimate way to understand a woman who deeply values historical roots and ancient civilizations. Instead, his main takeaway was just shiny, round metal objects, so he should definitely buy more. Talk about some peak missing the point energy. Just minding my own business while pouring water into my radiator. I was entirely detached from this little drama, until Ju Min's gaze shifted past Mr. Self-Absorbed and locked straight onto me, acting like a drowning swimmer spotting a floating life raft. Before my brain can even process the situation, she bypasses zimming mid-sentence, click-clack, click-clacking, across the pavement in her heels to latch onto my left arm, with both hands in a full-on girlfriend lock. Her body immediately angles to block his line of sight, and catching a whiff of her perfume tells me this is not a drill. Whispering right into my ear, she begs, "Help me out. Just pretend to be my boyfriend." My mind instantly goes, "Excuse me? What?" Because I literally came here to haul potatoes. I'm essentially a potato logistics specialist. So how on earth did I get promoted to fake boyfriend? Within the span of 3 seconds? Allowing me zero time to process any of this. She turns to face the shell-shocked Zhang Zimming and fires away. "Zhang Zimming, stop wasting your time here. Because this is my boyfriend. We've actually been together for a while now. So please just stop bothering me." 2 short sentences, delivered with a clean kill and surgical precision. Zhang Zimming's expression completely shatters, and he looks me up and down, as if I'm some pathetic specimen under a microscope, causing his initial shock to morph into pure contempt. This guy decides in roughly 0.4 seconds flat that I'm way beneath him before tossing his rose bouquet onto the hood of his luxury sports car. With a casually arrogant, "I own the world" gesture, he sneers, meaning don't play dumb. "You used to bring a fake friend to block me trick years ago, and now you're just doing it again." Shoving his hands deep inside his pockets, he looks down at both of us from his towering pedestal of superiority. "Even if you refuse to accept me, you didn't have to grab some random nobody just to fool me." Meanwhile, I'm standing right here thinking, yeah, I might be ordinary, but at least I'm not so utterly obnoxious that a woman would grab a literal stranger off the street just to escape my presence. Talk about achieving a whole new level of repulsive. "Buddy." Jumin grips my arm even tighter and retorts, "The last time was an act, but this time it's totally real. We've actually been seeing each other privately, and there's zero reason for me to lie to you." Zhang Zimming raises a single eyebrow, a condescending smirk dripping from his face, before turning his attention to me. "Well then, buddy, since this is real, I suppose I should get to know you, right? What's your last name? Where do you work? And what does your family do for a living?" Ah yes, the classic rich person background check. Because apparently love is just a corporate job application, where net worth happens to be the only required qualification. Keeping my voice completely level, I reply, "Surname is Chung, and I run a small shop." "A shop?" He scoffs as if I just told him something insane. "I sell seashells right by the seashore." Entrepreneurial stuff, right? Is it a massive chain or a tiny street side booth? What's the yearly revenue, and how many properties do you own in the capital? Every single question about cars and cash is just a financial audit disguised as casual small talk. Under the glaring afternoon sun, this guy judges every single human being strictly by their asset spreadsheet. I almost burst out laughing right there. Just a modest handicraft shop, barely off the ground yet. 0 chain stores, 0 real estate properties. No fancy car either, and his face instantly lights up with total vindication. "Called it," he snaps, turning right over to Joe Muning, while fake sympathy drips heavily from every single word he speaks. "Muning, did you hear him? No house, no car, just a tiny starter shop. He has absolutely nothing to his name at all. And you're seriously trying to tell me that this is the guy you're actually dating? Our families go back for generations. Look at my background, my deep connections, and my proven capabilities. Where am I supposedly lacking? You rejected me just to choose this loser? Even if you don't want a serious relationship right now, don't embarrass yourself by hanging out with someone this painfully ordinary. People are going to think your standards have hit rock bottom." Every single thing he says is masked as genuine concern. Yet it's clearly all about flexing his own toxic superiority. When he says, "I care about you," it actually means. I can't wrap my head around why you'd pick someone without a massive corporate balance sheet. Joey Munich's eyes fill up with absolute disgust. She immediately opens her mouth to snap back. But I beat her to the punch as something inside me finally clicks. Mr. Zhang, houses, fancy cars, heavy income, and assets only measure the depth of a person's wallet. They can never measure real character, true vision, or genuine sincerity, I state, turning sharply to face him, his expression going completely stiff. Munich didn't reject you because you're broke by any means. It's actually the exact opposite. You grew up totally privileged. Yet all it ever produced in you was blinding arrogance, petty narrowness, and a lifetime supply of self-congratulating delusion. You only ever offer things strictly from your own selfish perspective, totally failing to understand what another human being actually wants or needs. The more you cross-examine and compare everyone around you, the more you clearly prove that turning you down was easily the smartest decision she ever made in her life. Direct hit, absolute critical damage, totally devastating. His arrogant, smug grin freezes instantly and then completely crumbles. His face cycles rapidly through shades of green and sickly white, just like a glitching traffic light. He stands frozen right there with his jaw hanging wide open, completely unable to form a single coherent word, completely humiliated in broad daylight on a busy public sidewalk. I don't bother looking back at him ever again. I turn straight to Joey Unning and say, "Let's go. I'll walk you out of here." We stride right past his frozen figure, walking shoulder to shoulder. I can literally feel his furious eyes burning a hole straight through our backs, radiating pure venom. But neither of us dares to turn around. 20 meters down the road and safely around a quiet corner, out of sight from the chaos, the heavy tension finally breaks. Joe Muning immediately lets go of my arm, takes a step back, and starts nervously smoothing out the wrinkles in her sleeve. The intimidating, commanding presence she had 30 seconds ago is completely gone. Her ears are dusted with a soft pinkish hue, and she looks genuinely flustered and embarrassed. Taking a deep breath, she mutters, "I'm seriously so sorry about all that. Zhang Ziming is just the obnoxious son of my dad's old acquaintance. For years, the guy's been low-key stalking and bugging me, always exploiting our family ties. Not a single word I utter ever gets through to his thick skull. Catching sight of you caused me to totally panic and just grab your arm out of nowhere. My bad for dragging you straight into this messy situation." I spread my hands and let out a quick, easygoing chuckle. "No cap, it's totally fine. I'm just glad I could assist. My whole mission out here was just to haul some potatoes. Yet somehow I accidentally got cast as the leading man, right in the middle of some crazy rich people drama. Just another standard Tuesday, you know?" She visibly unwinds and sighs. "I totally owe you one big time. If you ever find yourself needing anything at all in the jewelry, antiques, or collecting scene, or honestly any other kind of backup, just say the word." I give her a reassuring nod. Watching her slide into a sleek gray sedan, I wave as she slowly drives away. Left standing alone on the cold pavement, I just shake my head in absolute disbelief. Barely a few months ago, debt collectors were literally hunting me down, while my pockets were completely empty. Now out of nowhere, I'm getting recruited as a fake boyfriend to fend off entitled rich boys. Honestly, life is just a whole comedy. Shaking off the days, I hustle back over to my trusty potato truck. Those spuds aren't going to haul themselves, after all. Throughout the next few days, I dive headfirst into planning my upcoming overseas trip. Our first stop on the itinerary is Italy, which is basically Europe's ultimate handicraft powerhouse. Milan handles the fine jewelry processing, while Florence takes care of leather goods, and Brescia dominates metalworking. If I can successfully frame my items from the other world as genuine Italian artisan imports, I'll easily jack up domestic market prices multiple times over. First off, I need to register a shell company over there to act as an import intermediary. Then, partner with a few legit workshops to secure photos and paperwork, crafting a completely bulletproof supply chain cover story. Our second destination is Brazil. Not only is Brazil known globally as the core epicenter for colored gemstones, think Paraíba tourmaline and imperial topaz, which are absolute top-tier stuff, it also happens to be the biggest soybean exporter on the planet. Should I manage to establish purchasing channels down there, bulk grain can be bought directly from Brazilian suppliers and shipped straight over to the Dwarf Kingdom. That's literally killing two birds with one stone. The gemstone cover operations will run using the exact same playbook as Italy. Scout real mines, snap photos, and collect receipts. 2 intense days flew by as I prepped my passport and visa applications, while simultaneously researching everything online, from registering a shell company in Italy and tracking down authentic artisan workshops, to locating Brazilian gem trading centers in Sao Paulo and major grain export ports in Rio. My phone memo is currently packed with a full checklist. This isn't just your average trip anymore. We are literally building international infrastructure for a full-scale, interdimensional import-export empire. Then later that evening, a WeChat message pings on my phone from Yijikyo. Mr. Chung, are you currently free? I've got something crazy to show you. Let's meet up at that cozy coffee shop on Antique Street. Arriving at the spot 10 minutes early, I find her already seated with her laptop wide open, displaying high-resolution photos of ancient clay tablets. A quick glance at the illuminated screen makes my blood instantly run cold. The strange text carved deeply onto those tablets. This exact writing system is shared by my otherworldly coins. They belong to the same family, just way more raw, featuring much cruder strokes and vastly more archaic glyphs, representing an earlier draft of that exact same language. With a flick of her finger, Jikio taps the screen. Pulled straight from our freshest South American excavation zone are these exact stone tablets. Preliminary carbon dating places their age around 4,000 to 6,000 years, even though a pretty wide margin of error still lingers. Her sharp eyes study my expression, asking if the markings here bear any resemblance to what's stamped on your gold coins. Leaning in closely, I study every single detail. They match up, coming from the exact same script lineage, just caught at completely different evolutionary stages. Rougher and way more primitive textures define the tablet text, whereas the coin engravings look far more refined and standardized, undoubtedly the product of thousands of years of steady progression. Instead of directly confirming any connection to her, I decide to flip the script right back. What is your honest take on these inscriptions? Professori, her demeanor instantly shifts into deep seriousness. Our institute firmly believes, with high probability, that these symbols originate from a lost ancient civilization, completely absent from any known historical records. Furthermore, the sheer technological capability of these people surpassed every single recorded Earth society existing during that exact same time frame. With a swift swipe, she pulls up another photo showing the back of a tablet. Snugly embedded inside the hardened clay is a microscopic metal wire, measuring less than 0.1 millimeters across, and covered in impeccably aligned surface patterns. 4,000 to 6,000 years ago, no civilization on our planet possessed the capability to craft metal wire drawn to this insane precision. Snapping her laptop shut, she locks eyes directly with me. This monumental find is enough to completely rewrite human history. Mr. Chung, we are currently tracking something truly groundbreaking here, and should you choose to join forces with us, I can expose you to an entirely deeper layer. I pause for a second, withholding my commitment since I need some breathing room to process. Stepping out of the coffee shop, my thoughts are spinning wildly. And here is the glaring mathematical paradox that makes zero sense. Those stone artifacts are dated at 4 to 6 millennia old, while my alternate dimension coins clock in at least 10 millennia, dating back to the primordial galactic wars. If both sets of text genuinely share a single common root, this entire timeline is completely backwards. The much older, heavily evolved script exists in another dimension entirely, while the younger, far more primitive iteration randomly surfaced right here on Earth, thousands of years down the line. How on earth did these archaic writings end up down here? Who dropped them off and for what purpose? This mystery is blowing way past normal potato logistics territory. Returning to the shop, my phone buzzes with a call from Shaoli. His grandfather has become completely low-key obsessed with my vintage weapons and armor, gushing over them constantly day in and day out, and is extending an invitation for me to drop by for a cup of tea, to nerd out over fine craftsmanship details together. Oh, and to top it off, Grandpa Xiao happens to roll with a high roller collector buddy who specializes deeply in ancient metallurgy. Word of my rare treasures has already reached his ears, prompting him to request a first-hand look as well. Locking it in, I agree to set the meeting for next Monday afternoon. Disconnecting the call, I spend a moment thinking it over. Clearly, Grandpa Zhao's underground network runs way deeper than I initially suspected, especially if I can manage to break into the elite collector circles through him. Dealing otherworld goods will never give me a hard time. Though the flip side is brutal, the savvier the buyer gets, the more eagle-eyed they become. Just one tiny craft anomaly, a single detail, failing to line up with any known earthly tradition, and my entire cover gets blown wide open. Iron Anvil needs to teach me forging theory ASAP, or dodging their questions without fumbling will be impossible. Since my visa is still processing, I've got a few days to burn. Night falls, alarms are set, gear is strapped on, and the necklace is equipped. With the crystal clutched in my palm at 11:58, I shut tight as midnight strikes. My consciousness fades out. Time to go visit some dwarves. My eyes snap open to bitter, freezing air, and I find myself stranded on a snow-draped mountain peak, facing what feels like -50 degrees, shivering so violently my teeth threaten to rattle right out of my skull. No time to waste. I activate the positioning crystal instantly. Sightseeing is definitely canceled today, and I warp straight into the Dwarf King's Hall, where the ambient heat wraps around me like a warm furnace embrace. Right in the middle of a high-stakes war council is Iron Dome, and the intel coming in is trash. One of the elders reports that the kobolds have reinforced their camp, doubling its original size, although we issued a warning, notifying them that they were blocking our main artery and demanding they clear out or face an attack. They completely ghosted us, now sitting at a massive force of 250,000 troops. Iron Dome fires back by boosting our garrison up to 150,000 and loading every single crossbow turret along the walls. Stored deep inside the mining tunnels, we got enough arrows and stone ammo to sustain a half-year war. But should they still refuse to budge, our troops will charge out and force them to. Man, things are escalating way too fast, until a dwarf messenger suddenly sprints into the hall, clutching a green leaf, an elven magical dispatch, acting essentially as the elvish version of an emergency wire. Iron Dome scans the text, his expression darkening with each line read. The situation is worse than imagined. The pathway connecting the elven forest to our mountain range has also been totally cut off. This time, it's the Pighead tribe making a move, who boast bigger numbers, tougher combat skills, and superior gear. A fortified blockade has been erected by them at the northeast entrance, leading into the elven forest. Massive swaths of trees chopped down to clear space for their encampment, completely severing all communication between us and the elves, slamming the letter hard against the stone table. He notes that the elves and ourselves share the exact same fate. Both factions locked down inside our respective territories, where neither can lend a hand to the other. My heart sinks deep into my chest, prompting me to immediately drop the question that's been eating me alive. Any word about Celine? As Iron Dome reads through the final paragraph of the message, his furrowed brow relaxes just a fraction. It says here, a female elf abducted by human slave traffickers managed to break free and safely return to the elven forest a couple of months back. Her description matches the details you gave us, and she is currently recovering from her wounds. An exhale so massive escapes my lungs, I practically feel deflated. At last, she is out of harm's way and back under her own roof. Iron Dome lets out a chilly scoff as his eyes scan further down the report. Word has finally come down that the human empire is stepping into the mix. Rather than coming to throw hands, though, they've dispatched a royal envoy to broker peace. Acting as a mediator, they are floating a ceasefire deal between the Diana Kingdom and the Minotaurs. Under this plan, the Minotaurs are expected to pull back from the northernmost occupied territories. Simultaneously, Diana's forces would retreat 30 kilometers south, leaving a designated, demilitarized buffer zone stretched right between them. They've actually invited us, both the dwarves and the elves, to sit in as third-party witnesses. Grand Elder Iron Fury lets out a harsh snort. Since when did the human empire get so altruistic? Diana is their primary vassal state. After all, if the Minotaurs end up winning, beast folk territory pushes right up against the empire's own borders. Plus, Diana's northern region acts as the main trade highway that links humans, dwarves, and elves together. Losing that means a massive hit to their tax revenue. They aren't trying to mediate out of the goodness of their hearts. They're just protecting their own wallets. With a nod, Iron Dome agrees, true, regardless of what's driving their motives. A ceasefire totally works in our favor if the Minotaurs pull back. Some of those northern passages will finally reopen, giving us a green light to trade with the elves again. Grand Elder, let's send a response back tomorrow. We'll take part as witnesses as soon as the War Council wraps up. Dragging me over to the experimental fields, Iron Dome watches my jaw drop. The potato plants are in full bloom, flashing gorgeous colors. Pale purple and crisp white blossoms are carpeting the entire hillside like something out of a painting. Iron Anvil is squatting right at the edge of a crop row, looking low-key hyped out of his mind. The tubers have already started forming down there, meaning we'll be pulling our first batch in just 2 more months. The cabbages, radishes, and pumpkins have all managed to survive as well. Those cabbages are already the size of an open palm, and I spot a few fist-sized baby pumpkins clinging to the vines. Squatting down to inspect the leaves, I'm amazed. The growth rate is honestly way better than I could have ever hoped. Turns out earth crops are absolute fans of this mineral-rich, dwarf mountain soil. Who would have guessed? Potatoes and pumpkins are genuinely thriving in a crazy fantasy world. Heading back inside the hall, I find that Ironstone has the finished custom orders ready to go. There's J.O. Lehigh's tailored light armor, featuring newly adjusted shoulders and a tighter waist. Grandpa J.O.'s custom longsword is right beside it, shortened by a good 3 finger widths. It's 30% lighter now, boasting a vine-patterned handle and an elven-style guard. Various gold jewelry pieces sit nearby, some sparkling with embedded gemstones. Looking everything over, I see it's as flawless as always. That authentic dwarf hand-forged weight and distinct texture are things machines will literally never be able to copy. The brand new batch of 12 Zodiac Silver armors has also been completed. My master plan is to paint them gold once I'm back in the real world, and flip them as ultimate golden holy armor. Anime fans are honestly going to lose their minds over this. Making my way to the training cavern, I'm ready to get some combat practice in. Iron Dome steps up to demonstrate a fire attribute aura using his massive Forge Warhammer. He takes just a single swing at a steel training dummy, and a blazing red aura detonates right off the hammerhead, leaving a smoking crater that's terrifying yet gorgeous. Naturally, I want that power. Without missing a beat, he tells me to try channeling space aura straight into a weapon. Sitting down with my legs crossed tightly, I circulate my energy and shove it straight into a basic, everyday dagger. The glowing aura makes contact with the cold steel and immediately fades away into nothingness. Instead of reacting, the dagger just sits there looking totally unimpressed. Dealing with the space attribute is honestly just like that during the early stages. Iron Dome sighs, telling me to keep at it and practice more, building a solid resonance between my surging aura and the metal weapon. I make sure to lock that strange feeling in my memory. And on the bright side, all this grueling training has low-key leveled up my physical fitness. Back in the day, hauling a 50-pound load was a massive struggle. But now I can pack nearly 200 pounds of heavy armor and trek for miles without even breaking a sweat. Turns out this interdimensional gym membership is finally paying off big time. We kick back with some Golden Spring that evening, choosing to skip the brutal Black Rock spirit, because strict wartime rules mean getting blackout drunk is a no-go. We sit in total silence at the weathered stone table, each of us completely lost inside our own heads. My mind is heavily fixated on Celine, while Iron Dome is deep in thought about the brewing war. Should these diplomatic talks fall apart, both dwarves and elves might be forced to launch an aggressive strike against the beast folk, which could easily spark a full-blown racial war. Breaking the heavy silence, I promise to ship in extra food supplies, noting how 100 cubic meters per trip really adds up fast. Iron Dome shakes his head slowly, saying the food situation is handled for now, and what he actually needs from me is to somehow make direct contact with the elves, causing me to sigh deeply. I've crossed over dozens and dozens of times already, yet I've never once materialized in elven territory. This continent is ridiculously massive, and my drop point turns out completely random every single time, leaving our success entirely up to pure luck as we down a few more rounds. Mindful of my limits, I carefully pace my alcohol intake this time, having thoroughly learned my lesson from that disastrous Black Rock Spirit incident. Shortly after, I excuse myself from the table to track down Ironstone. I pelt him with a barrage of detailed questions concerning ancient forging techniques, asking about specific temperatures and hammer patterns, as well as metal grain structures and complex alloy compositions. Knowing I'm an honorary elder of the dwarf race, and the very guy who brought back their lost ancestral warhammer, he holds absolutely nothing back during our conversation. Ironstone would probably even hand over the secret recipe for his grandmother's mushroom soup if I just bother to ask him. I mentally commit every single technical detail to memory, realizing I'm going to desperately need this expertise when I finally meet Grandpa. who happens to be Zhao's expert collector buddy. A single incorrect answer regarding professional forging methodology would cause my entire cover story to crumble instantly. Back in the real world, my daily routine quickly settles into a predictable groove, consisting of managing the shop by day and handling dimensional travel by night, always crossing my fingers that a portal will finally drop me straight into elven lands. Though it never does, while I field impatient phone calls from Zhao Lihai demanding to know if his order is done yet, and constantly bickering back and forth with Ironstone regarding custom order specifications, through the grumpy blacksmith's apprentice, making the whole ordeal feel remarkably like some absurd interdimensional customer service dispute. To keep things running smoothly, I hire a part-time college intern for the warehouse, whose only real job is to accept incoming deliveries and log them properly, without ever asking questions about where the merchandise ultimately disappears to. The spacious warehouse is soon stacked ceiling high with sacks of potatoes, bags of rice, heavy flour, and jugs of cooking oil, causing my magical spatial ring to be crammed to absolute maximum capacity on every single crossing, while the hardworking dwarf miners occasionally grumbled at. My brand rotation for Ergo goes into effect smoothly, yet operations hit a major snag before I can even breathe. Someone spots a glaring discrepancy in my warehouse bookkeeping. While endless supplies flood the building, the outgoing inventory numbers refuse to match up. It is as if goods are vanishing into an alternate dimension, though clearly I cannot drop that excuse into the logistics report. Market supervision gets a sudden call from an anonymous snitch, reporting suspected illegal stockpiling, or perhaps unauthorized goods transfer. Inspectors storm the facility, uncovering several tons of ordinary seed potatoes, along with a few dozen cases of Ergo items. Finding everything completely legal, they just shrug, remind me briefly about fire safety protocols, and walk out. Even so, this serves as a massive red flag. Keeping this sketchy routine up forever is impossible. A brand new trading startup, pumping out dozens of tons of cargo without matching output, that specific kind of anomaly, is bound to attract increasingly serious heat. Asking Zhao Lihai for backup crosses my mind for a second, yet I immediately kill the thought. Our connection remains strictly transactional, clean and balanced, free of debts armor traded for hard cash, swords for deposits the second I lean on him for protection. My fate gets permanently chained to the Zhao household. If I go down, they go down with me, witnessing how deeply they care about their reputation. During the Hu Jia incident stops me from doing that to them. Instead, I dial up Zhao Mining. This move is fair game since she owes me a legitimate favor. Not a business favor, but a deeply personal one. The whole fake boyfriend fiasco was the real deal, the kind of help cash cannot purchase. The warehouse disaster gets laid out to her completely. 2 quiet seconds pass on the line. Before she replies, understood, I will take care of it. One day later, the follow-up inspection gets canceled. The anonymous complaint vanishes into thin air. The warehouse manager keeps chewing his beetle nut casually, as if nothing ever went down. Not a single ripple disturbs the water, and I avoid asking how she pulled it off. Certain truths are better left uninvestigated. All I know is that I owe her one now, and that debt will be paid back when the right moment hits. Her WeChat notification chimes shortly after, containing just a single line. The warehouse situation officially squares us up for last time. This close call pushes me to hustle my overseas plans faster. Securing legitimate international supply chains sooner means shaking off this shady vibe much quicker. Monday rolls around, bringing the tea appointment with Grandpa Zhao. 2 dwarf-forged short swords are packed carefully as presents, crafted using a layered forging technique, featuring vine-pattern blades and silver wire inlaid guards. They belong to the exact same series as Xiao Lihai's longsword, functioning purely as high-end collector items. Xiao Lihai offers to dispatch a car for me, yet I turn it down, choosing to drive my rented box truck toward the western suburbs instead. My GPS guides me straight to a massive mountain estate. Naturally, the Xiao family calls a literal mountain mansion home. My name gets dropped at the security gate. The guards wave me right on through. My humble box truck rolls into the parking lot, surrounded by an ocean of luxury vehicles, making it stand out like a sore thumb among supercars. Clutching my trusty gift bag, I stride right up to the main building. As the doorbell chimes, the heavy door swings wide open. There stands Xiao Lihai dead in my tracks, rocking a grin wider than a kid on Christmas morning. Boss Chong, finally, we've been waiting. Before he can even finish his sentence, Xiaolei pops right out from behind him. Her hand covers her mouth as she giggles away. Chongdong, you literally have no idea. My brother was pacing holes into the living room floor all morning, unable to even touch his tea. He was honestly seconds away from dragging a stool straight to the front gate and camping out for you. Xiao Lihai coughs awkwardly, his ears turning bright pink. Swallowing my laughter, I hand the gift bag right over. I brought 2 handcrafted daggers for Grandpa Xiao, plus your custom golden elven jewelry set. Snatching the bag, Xiao Lihai pulls out the daggers first. He admires them for roughly 3 seconds flat. Bro, this craftsmanship is insane. Grandpa's going to carry these everywhere he goes. Then he instantly digs out the jewelry box, transforming from a sophisticated collector into a groveling sibling in 0.2 seconds flat. Both hands lift the box and present it to Xiaolei, like a sacred tribute offering. Dear sister, I was wrong. The set I gave Cloud Shurjia was just a casual thank you gift. But this is your exclusive, top-tier custom edition. One of a kind across the entire world. Money can't buy this. Please put it on. You're going to stun everyone. With theatrical slowness, Xiaolei pops the box open, maintaining a totally bored expression. She picks up the bracelet, flips it to the inside, and squints hard at the microscopic engraving. Xiao Lihai. Her eyebrow shoots right up. You absolute genius. This text is smaller than an actual ant. You deliberately made it invisible, didn't you? Playing cute with your little tricks on my life. I would never. Xiao Lihai's innocence act is world-class, his hands waving frantically in the air. The bracelet is just way too narrow. The craftsman physically couldn't make it any bigger. It's purely a technical limitation. Look at the quality, though. Feel that texture, seriously. An epic eye roll drops from Xiaolei. Yet she slides the bracelet on anyway. As sunlight catches the gold, it genuinely looks breathtaking. Twisting her wrist, she admires it despite herself. Fine, the piece is acceptable. You're forgiven for today. Pull that stun again, though, and you're dead. Silently standing by, I just soak in. Peak sibling entertainment. This man commands entire fleets of luxury vehicles and makes grown men tremble with a single look. Yet, right in front of his little sister, he transforms into a helpless puppy with zero negotiating power. The contrast is honestly beautiful. Trailing behind Xiao Lihai past the entrance hall, we enter the main living room. I present the daggers to Grandpa Xiao, who pops open the case and instantly gets magnetically drawn toward the intricate blade patterns. Just as the medical checkup is about to kick off, a thunderous shout suddenly pierces through the doorway. Old Jiao, you sly dog. What treasures are you hiding? Show me now, a booming voice from the doorway. Every single person in the living room abruptly pivots. Standing right, there is an elderly man draped in a dark brown, traditional jacket, who is totally flexing unmatched energy for his age. Right by his side stands a young guy rocking a sharp navy blue shirt, looking utterly composed and refined. My gaze locks onto the old man's face. He looks super familiar, yet his identity totally escapes me. Then he spots me, and his cheerful expression instantly freezes. Rushing forward, he grabs both of my hands, while tears well up in his aged eyes with deep emotion. My savior, I've been hunting for you everywhere. If it weren't for you, these old bones would already be 6 feet under. Dead silence blankets the entire room. Meanwhile, I'm standing frozen, experiencing a complete brain glitch. What Grandpa Zhao's teacup hangs suspended in midair. Confused glances are rapidly exchanged between Xiao Lihai and Xiaolei. Literally nobody has a clue what is going down. The young man Zhou Mukai swiftly steps in to steady his emotional grandfather. Do you remember, the old man asks, his voice thick with overwhelming gratitude. That lonely lakeside road near the antique market. I was totally wrecked by a hit-and-run driver. It was a remote stretch with 0 security cameras, and not a single soul around. Flat out pinned to the asphalt and unable to budge. I genuinely thought I was toast. Grandfather, are you saying this gentleman dialed 120 and literally saved your life? Zhou Mukai asks gently. That's a hard yes. He's the absolute legend who became my lifesaver. And suddenly it all clicks. The memory of that old man by the roadside flashes back. Yet my internal security system immediately trips red alarms. Every single word and micro-expression of his is being heavily scrutinized, just in case he starts leaking other secrets. Like those high-tech medical supplies I offloaded to him, sourced from a rather unconventional supply chain. Luckily, he only references the car wreck and the emergency call. Nothing more causing my heart to finally drop back into my chest, where it actually belongs. Waving my hands frantically, I reply, "Sir, you are doing the most. I just happened to cruise past and make a quick phone call. It was honestly no biggie. No biggie to you, but it literally kept me breathing. Young man, what is your name?" He inquires warmly before Xiao Lei jumps right in. "Grandpa Joe, his name is Chung Dong. Every single piece of armor and jewelry I bought was crafted by him. A little dong." Grandpa Joe's face instantly lights up. What an absolute coincidence, since destiny brought us together here. You've got to drop by the Joe estate, so I can properly thank you. Before any words can leave my mouth, Grandpa Xiao slams his teacup hard onto the coffee table. "Now hold your horses, old Joe. You spot your savior. And instantly ditch the whole reason you came here. Chung Dong was specifically invited as my guest today. So if you're trying to poach him, you better wait until tomorrow. Barely discharged from the hospital. I warmly invite you over to check out my collection, and your way of repaying me is by trying to snatch my guest. Right in front of my face. Absolutely not." Catching himself, Grandpa Joe sheepishly rubs his forehead. My bad. I got way too hyped. And completely blanked on my manners. With total sincerity, he shifts his gaze back to me. "Little Dong, make sure you swing by the Joe estate tomorrow, where a proper feast will be laid out for you." Watching these two heavy hitters of the capital's elite bicker over me like I'm the last slice of pizza at a party feels equal parts hilarious and low-key terrifying. "Deal," I reply, keeping my promise to Grandpa Zhao today. "Well, tomorrow I'll drop by your place." "Excellent." Grandpa Zhao practically leaps up and whirls around to face his grandson Mukai. "Get the house prepped by tomorrow to give Mr. Chum first-class hospitality." "You got it, grandfather." With the scheduling drama finally sorted out, Grandpa Joe can no longer keep his excitement contained. All right. Your guest day's put. Now let me see the goods." Since I've been waiting for ages, everyone finally settles into their seats. Steaming tea is poured, and the two old-timers pounce on the short swords and armor samples, like kids tearing open holiday gifts. Holding a magnifying glass flat against the blade, Grandpa Joe inspects the intricate, layered forging patterns. Meanwhile, Grandpa Zhao runs his fingers over the silver wire, inlaid along the hilt, letting out those signature tisk-tisk noises, signaling that a seasoned collector has just struck gold. This is where all that hardcore forging lore picked up from Ironstone totally pays off, and I casually break down the techniques. Those vine designs aren't etched on after the fact. Instead, they take shape right during the hammering process. Every single pattern is forged in real time as the craftsman constantly shifts his strike angle and force, meaning once it's locked in, there's no going back. Pulling his magnifying glass away, Grandpa Xiao nods vigorously. No wonder the texture is so one-of-a-kind. Only a lifetime master could pull this off. This goes way beyond basic blacksmithing, Grandpa Joe declares with deep reverence, his grip still locked tightly on the sword. This is pure art, as I dive deeper into the carbon ratios of various steels and explain how specific hammer techniques shape different grain patterns. Grandpa Joe tunes in with laser focus. Having spent decades navigating the high-stakes collecting world, he visibly absorbs every single piece of insider knowledge. My old mentor relies on a completely unique crafting methodology that bears zero resemblance to any known earthly tradition. Unable to help himself any longer, Grandpa Joe sets his teacup down and gives me the puppy dog eyes. "Little Dong, you handed both of these masterpieces over to old Xiao, so surely you aren't going to leave this old guy empty-handed?" With a laugh, I reassure him. "Don't sweat it, Grandpa Joe. I'll get a pair crafted for you too. It's just that the master's commission list is currently maxed out, so you'll simply need to wait for the next wave." Awesome. 3 times the enthusiasm right in a row, with a massive grin like a kid holding a fresh toy out of the box. Over on the younger crew's side, Zhao Mukai, Zhao Lihai, alongside Xiao Lei, break off to do their own thing. Zhao Mukai gets pulled in as Xiao Lihai tosses an arm over his shoulders. "Let's head upstairs so I can flex my collection room for you." Dead silence takes over the living room, leaving only me and a pair of veteran billionaire collectors, who are slowly sipping aged pure tea, while bickering endlessly about the grain patterns on a sword blade. Taking a quiet sip, I silently think to myself, not gonna lie, this is actually super chill, truly peaceful and normal. Then reality hits me that in another corner of my crazy life, a full-blown beast folk blockade is happening. Alongside an ancient undead leader I accidentally vaporized into thin air. Plus a food crisis that I am somehow fixing through interdimensional potato smuggling. Peace is totally relative anyway. An invitation to stay for dinner gets thrown my way by Grandpa Shao. Declining politely, I mention that I have some pressing business tonight. My promise to return later and make it up to him is quickly secured by him. Pulling down the metal roller door back of the shop, I instantly dive into prep mode for tonight's dimensional jump. Here is a fun fact about trying to randomly warp straight to the Elven Forest. The success rates are absolute trash. Attempting this exact stunt every single night has turned into an absolute highlight reel, composed entirely of brutal, gruesome deaths, drowning in the open ocean or freezing solid on a desolate glacier, or getting devoured by a magical beast. I respawn back home every time I flatline, though the trauma definitely doesn't get any easier to handle. Packed neatly into tonight's inventory are light rice, cooking oil, flour, and a handful of emergency medical kits. Clutching the crystal tightly while wearing the beast tooth necklace. The clock strikes 11:58 as I take a deep breath, shutting my eyes as my consciousness completely fades out. Snapping my eyes open, my boots sink knee-deep into wild grass. An infinite prairie stretches out as far as the eye can see, while the wind sweeps across it like rolling green ocean waves. Hanging ominously over the edge of the world are two distinct moons, one glowing pure white and the other stained crimson red. Absolute emptiness surrounds me with zero civilization in sight. No mysterious forests, no underground dwarves. My fingers tighten around the positioning crystal. A blinding three-layer spatial tear flashes and blinks me forward, suddenly dropping me right inside the Dwarf King's hall. Yet something feels immediately off. The heavy vibe hanging inside this hall is completely alien, compared to every previous visit I have made here. It feels suffocating and dense, as if the surrounding air itself is nervously holding its breath. This is definitely not the standard. Let us kick back, drink, and chat about Potato's atmosphere. Something seriously messed up has gone down. Sitting solemnly behind the heavy stone table is Iron Dome. He is completely buried underneath piles of military reports, and the grim look etched across his face clearly confirms. This is definitely not a let's drink and chat about Potato's kind of night. Spotting me instantly, he offers a sharp, silent nod. There is no warm welcome back, brother, and no casual inquiry about how Earth is treating me. Instead, he just gestures firmly toward the empty chair across from him. Taking the hint, I sit down immediately. My eyes quickly scan the scattered documents featuring reports from the Mountain Exit Outpost. A sealed, magical letter from elves, alongside a diplomatic mediation update sent straight from the human empire. Not a single one of them brings any good news. Things are completely blowing up at the negotiation table, as Iron Dome drops the Empire's official report right in front of me. Two major demands are being thrown down by the Minotaur tribe. First off, they want the Crown Prince of the Diana Kingdom handed over, who is the absolute menace that hunted down and decapitated their chief's kid. Secondly, they are demanding war reparations so absurdly massive that would literally wipe out half of Diana's entire treasury, while Diana might reluctantly stomach paying the heavy cash. Surrendering their royal prince is a total deal-breaker they'd rather keep throwing hands. Both factions have been screaming their heads off at each other across the negotiation desk for 3 straight days, making zero headway as a heavy frown forms on my face. What on earth is the Empire's envoy doing about this mess? With a scoff, Iron Dome mutters, what can a guy even do? Protecting trade routes is the only thing the Empire actually cares about. This entire mediation is nothing more than a total sham. The Minotaurs refuse to back down an inch. Diana refuses to give up their precious prince, and the envoy just wanders aimlessly back and forth between the camps, passing along empty messages without applying pressure to anyone. Avoiding any conflict with the Minotaurs is the Empire's main goal. Getting dragged into a border war would drain a serious chunk of their military budget. Sacrificing a bit of tax revenue is way cheaper than deploying a bunch of actual troops. My gaze remains locked on the map, showing the highlighted blockade zones. Yet the ones who get completely screwed while this drags out happen to be the elves and dwarves, no cap. Pointing a heavy finger at the parchment, Iron Dome traces the deadly zone dividing the dwarf mountains and the elven woods while the talks keep stalling day after day. The kobolds and pig heads are tightening their military blockades. This was clearly calculated from the start because the longer negotiations drag, the more locked down their defense lines become, and the faster the clock is ticking down for the elves. Once the elves are finally forced to trigger their ancient life tree barrier, winning these negotiations won't even matter anymore. Studying every single intelligence marker scattered across that tactical map, I can feel my brain gears starting to click into place as all those random puzzle pieces suddenly snap together in my head. The way the Minotaurs found such a convenient excuse to launch a war. The suspiciously high-tier military gear in the hands of the pig heads. That custom-built barrier engineered specifically to exploit elven weaknesses, down to the smallest detail. The ghost army spotted lurking right outside the elven forest. And these peace talks that are permanently frozen over one impossible demand. A freezing shiver travels straight up my spine. Breaking the silence, I speak slowly to Iron Dome. The youngest son of the Minotaur chief was slaughtered over in the Monster Mountains by Diana's crown prince. Am I right about that? Not only did the prince sever the head and dangle it from his saddle, turning it into a public trophy for everyone to see, even though every sentient race across this entire continent is fully aware that this is the ultimate forbidden taboo and a guaranteed trigger to start an all-out war, correct? Think about a crown prince raised inside a sheltered royal palace, who has been tutored from day one in the arts of diplomacy, political fallout, and cross-species laws. This guy didn't just accidentally kill a chief's son. He broadcasted it everywhere, making damn sure the whole world noticed. Lifting my eyes away from the map, I locked my gaze right onto Iron Dome. That wasn't just plain stupidity. That was an intentional setup. He wasn't trying to flex for his own ego. He was dancing to someone else's tune, delivering the exact outcome they wanted. Iron Dome's gaze suddenly cuts like a razor-sharp blade. Are you seriously telling me Diana Prince was ordered to pull this off? Shaking my head, I admit I can't verify it for sure. Just connect the dots, though. The prince goes and baits the Minotaurs into all-out war. And the Minotaurs lock down Diana's main northern army entirely, while right at the same time, pigheads and kobolds trap both the elves and the dwarves in a tight blockade. Three separate beastfolk factions are executing a coordinated play across hundreds of miles, following a master blueprint that locks together seamlessly. Pressing on, I keep laying it out. That pighead iron armor didn't come from any beastfolk forge, and that compound shield encircling the elven forest is packed with tech from a totally outside civilization. Elven rangers spotted a ghost military squad hanging around the woods, rocking gear and battle formations that match. Literally zero known factions, meaning all roads lead to one conclusion. Someone is intentionally cutting off the elves, and the dwarves with a plot that was planned way in advance. This was definitely no spur-of-the-moment scheme. Taking a quick breath, I dropped the heavy truth nobody in the room wants to swallow. If that Diana Crown Prince was bought out or blackmailed, it means some high roller at the very top of the human kingdom. At the bare minimum, the prince himself has already linked up with whatever shadowy force is pulling the strings behind. The beast folk, while the Empire's envoy just sits on their hands doing absolutely squat at the negotiation table. Maybe that isn't just about pinching pennies. Maybe the Empire is chilling on the sidelines on purpose. Or perhaps someone inside the Empire is actively fueling this standoff. Silence drops over the Grand Hall like a heavy blanket. Iron Dome stays dead silent for what feels like an eternity. Grand Elder Iron Fury's forehead is wrinkled in a deep, angry frown that looks like it might never straighten out. Around the room, the dwarf generals exchange glances, wearing looks that practically scream, "Man, I really wish he had kept that to himself." Lowering his voice to a grave rumble, Iron Dome speaks. If that's true, we are up against way more than just beast folk. Considering the human kingdoms have been compromised, and the beast folk are just being played as expendable pawns, while the elves are getting walled off completely. Then we dwarves are next on the chopping block, which explains why. Choking off food supplies to elves and dwarves alike was no accident at all, I point out, as I bounce up to my feet and slam both palms onto the heavy stone table. Someone is trying to starve you guys out and weaken you before the hammer drops for real. Regardless of whether the talks pan out or crash and burn, and regardless of whether the prince was a puppet or not, your race needs to brace for the absolute worst-case scenario. Double up the guard stationed at the mountain pass. Make sure every single crossbow turret is locked and loaded. And max out your arrow and ammo stockpiles. Should the kobolds make a move, that front line of defense better hold its ground. Giving a slow nod, Iron Dome mutters that when you lay it all out like that, the big picture gets terrifyingly crystal clear. Even so, I still can't lock down proof for everything yet. I say, talking through my own thoughts out loud. My next stop has to be the Elven Forest. That is where all the missing puzzle pieces are hiding. From the Ghost Army to the barrier tech. And whatever secrets the elves are sitting on that we desperately need. Everything is all set now that the dwarf strongholds are fully locked down by you. Over on the elven side of things, gathering intel is totally my department. Your teleportation drop zone remains completely RNG-based, though. Have you actually mapped out how you're going to breach the Elvenwoods? Keeping my tone chill, I just say I'll keep rolling the dice. One jump a day means sooner or later I'm bound to spawn close to my target. Once that happens, making it across the finish line within my time frame is a lock. A long, heavy gaze is fixed on me by Iron Dome. It looks like he's dying to voice some thoughts, like how this whole plan is straight up suicidal or a fast track to the graveyard. Instead of speaking up, he just drops his massive palm onto my shoulder and lays down some serious pressure. With a grin, I tell him to watch his step. Chill out. I'm literally incapable of perming out. Once all this craziness settles, we're definitely grabbing a round of drinks. Putting the heavy stuff aside, Iron Dome starts grilling me about my training regimen. Steady gains are being made with my space combat aura lately. Not gonna lie though, strictly in terms of talent, I'm definitely not setting any records. He doesn't push it, reminding me that cultivation demands patience instead of speed. Then he goes full minor mode. Drilling mon practical combat maneuver. Dwarf hammer basics are all about physics. Hip and leg synchronization generate the real power. Not just raw muscle, followed by short blade parrying. And close quarters grappling. His final verdict? My combat aura is pretty mid, but my hand-to-hand mechanics have actually leveled up. They're solid enough now to hold ground against an average human foot soldier. Just a few months ago, taking down a house cat would have been a stretch. Now I can actually trade blows with a soldier. Progress is progress, so we celebrate with a few drinks. Kept moderate this time due to wartime protocols, while I hand over the rice flour, cooking oil, and medical provisions. The seed potato strains for the upcoming cargo drop are finalized next. Stretched out on the stone slab afterward, my mind is racing a mile a minute. Thoughts keep spinning through everything at once. The way the Diana princess pulled off that textbook provocation. The synchronized three-pronged beast folk blockade. That clandestine army equipped with futuristic tech. And the Empire's super sketchy passivity. All these loose threads are weaving together into a nightmare that I really don't want to look at. Clearly, some hidden force, or entity, is pulling the strings behind this entire continental crisis from the shadows. The scariest part of all this? I might be the absolute only person positioned to connect the dots, simply because I'm the single dummy who casually commutes between two separate universes. Somewhere out there, hidden in some uncharted forest, an unknown army is hunting for something, and I've got a bad vibe that our paths are going to cross very soon. Making my way back from the other realm, I crash onto my cot and stay knocked out cold until the afternoon sun is high in the sky. Waking up, I grab the gift bag I prepped for Grandpa Joe, featuring a pair of elven-crafted short swords, alongside a set of sterling silver jewelry, keeping things entirely proper and respectful, and head straight over toward the Joe family estate. As I'm walking up to the front entrance, a voice pierces my ears with the annoying persistence of a buzzkill mosquito. It's none other than Zhong Jiming again, the exact same guy I had a fake boyfriend my way past, back on the roadside. The guy whose entire identity revolves around his family wealth, thinks that makes him worthy of love. He's back in action and has totally upgraded his game. Those sad little roses are nowhere to be seen. Instead, he's rocking a sharp navy suit, while clutching a fancy gift bag trimmed in gold, desperately trying to pass as a high-class suitor, rather than a certified creep. He's posted up outside the gates, jawing at Joe Muning. Joe Muning is standing right at the entrance of the ZH.OU family compound. My brain takes a minute to piece the scene together. Hang on a sec, she's wearing a crisp white dress, with her hair secured back by one of my vintage silver hair clips. Looking gorgeous and utterly done with this nonsense. She's wearing the exact same fed-up vibe as last time. That pure, I would rather literally melt into thin air. Energy radiating straight off her. Zhang Ziming is launching into his scripted monologue, arguing that he's here legitimately, and definitely not looking for trouble today. His father personally instructed him to pay respects to Grandpa Joe, given the decades of history between our families. Blocking him from entering feels pretty harsh, don't you think? Joe Muning glares at Zhang Ziming in utter disgust. Do I need to spell it out for you? Is your brain completely wired against basic human speech? Not an ounce of me cares about you. I want zero association with your entire bloodline, regardless of what gifts you bring or what your dad claims. And whatever past our household share. None of it moves me, so stop showing up at my doorstep. My shoes instinctively slide back a few inches. Oh crap. I've somehow stumbled right into a sequel. I immediately kick off the stealthiest side shuffle, hoping to quietly ghost away and find a detour leading to the back gate, because there is zero chance I'm getting dragged into this. Too late. Zhang Ziming catches my cowardly escape out of the corner of his eye. Look who it is. His expression shifts from scorned lover to pure assassin. In half a second, as I let out an internal groan. I couldn't even make it past 10 meters. Meanwhile, a literal horror movie is playing out in slow motion. Across the pavement, Zhu Minyoung tracks the direction of Zhang Ziming's stare, spots me, and her face cycles through. The most insane emotional roller coaster that has ever been broadcasted on a human expression. Phase 1 is sheer shock. She genuinely never anticipated running into me. Right outside her front door's Phase 2. Pure exasperation where her eyes basically scream. Why does this dude materialize whenever I'm dealing with creeps? Phase 3, all those feelings condense into a glare of bone-chilling determination that sends shivers straight down my spine. I recognize that exact look belonging to a woman who just locked in on a plan. That's going to make my life miserable. Oh, no, no. No, no. No, no. Please not again. Helping out once was a fluke. Doing it twice is basically a second job. Before I can pull off my little tactical exit, she has already closed the distance in those killer heels. Click, click. Click, and slips her arm smoothly right through mine. With all the practiced, effortless flair of someone who's done this 1,000 times. A whiff of light perfume and a warm grip hit my brain. Major critical error right there. She spins around to face Zhang Ziming, dragging me along with her like some designer accessory. Zhang Ziming, I don't have time for you today. And it's honestly not even personal. She lifts the arm locked in mine, noting that Zhang Dong is here today to formally meet my folks. Meet her parents? My brain doesn't just blue screen. It completely uninstalls the entire operating system. Last time I was just a roadside fake boyfriend. For a quick 5-minute scene, a tiny cameo, basically a background extra at best. Now, I've suddenly been promoted to meeting the family? That's not just an upgrade. That is skipping straight to the final raid boss. And right then, the final puzzle piece slams into place. With the sheer force of a dwarf warhammer, Zhou Muning, the Zhou family estate. She is standing right outside the Zhou front door, because she literally is a Zhou. The Zhou. The quiet, sharp jewelry expert, who saw right through everything back in my shop. The woman I fake dated out on a random sidewalk. And the granddaughter of that old man whose life I just saved. I was actually invited here by her grandfather himself. And I am literally carrying gifts right now. Nice gifts, highly thoughtful. Well-chosen presents, neatly tucked inside a proper bag. Glancing down at the gift bag dangling in my hand, I spot 2 hand-forged elven short swords and a complete, gleaming set of silver jewelry, all carefully selected and beautifully wrapped. It is the exact kind of spread a serious suitor would bring when meeting his girlfriend's family for the very first time. Honestly, I look way more prepared than any actual boyfriend would. I could dive straight into the Yellow River right now and still not be able to wash this massive misunderstanding off. Zhang Ziming's face cycles through a rapid-fire spectrum of colors I didn't even think human skin was capable of making. His eyes lock hard onto our locked-together arms, then drop to my gift bag, his jaw clenching so intensely that I can literally hear his teeth grinding. Last time you were just faking it on the street, and now you're putting on a whole Hollywood production, Muning. You're really going all out just to dodge me, even staging a whole meet-the-parent scenario. Zhou Muning doesn't even flinch. I don't need to stage a damn thing to avoid you, Zhang Ziming, because you seriously overestimate your own relevance. He's practically choking on his own toxic rage, chest heaving, just about ready to snap back when the main Zhou gate swings open, and Zhou Mukai steps out from within. It's her brother, the composed, sharp young man from yesterday's tea party over at the Shao estate. He takes one single look at the chaotic scene. Zhang Ziming looking like a total psycho, his sister standing ice cold, and me looking like a terrified deer caught in the headlights. That polished grin of his completely evaporates in a split second. Downward gaze directs his attention straight to the spot, where Zhao Muning is holding onto my arm with a double-handed grip. the usually immaculate prime heir of the prestigious Zhao household, suffers an abrupt and obvious mental glitch. Following an awkward pause, Zhao Mukai queries carefully, "Who on earth is this?" This happens to be the guy I ran into yesterday over at the Zhao family estate. Being Grandpa Zhao's special guest, he definitely knows my identity. He is fully aware that I am the dude who bailed his grandfather out of a fatal situation. He also knows that said grandfather is the exact reason I got an invite here today. Yet here is his sister locking arms with me and loudly declaring me her man, before a single syllable can escape my lips. Before I have the chance to say, "Look, man, there's been a massive misunderstanding here. I am just a humble potato vendor. My job is brokering cross-realm commerce deals, not dating contracts," Zhao Muning asserts with absolute zero chill, leaving zero wiggle room for any negotiation. Me bifing Zhongzhong, death is coming for me, and it won't be from some mythical beast. Nor will I perish by drowning in a dimensional ocean. Neither an ancient sealed entity trying to devour my soul will get me. Instead, pure secondhand embarrassment is going to take me out, right on the front steps of a billionaire dynasty's mansion, while I'm lugging around a bag full of elven blades and getting labeled as a boyfriend by a chick I have exchanged words with precisely 4 times. The Aldous realm has nothing on the lethal hazards of everyday society. My inner monologue is screaming at top volume right now. Since when did I agree to be your boyfriend? We literally pulled off one fake act on a random sidewalk, and you're just leaning hard into it. My sole purpose here is visiting your grandfather, because he personally invited me, and I packed presents fit for an old-timer, rather than any kind of engagement offering. Zhao Mukai's eyes are broadcasting the most intense disbelief I have ever witnessed on the face of a high society aristocrat. Still, I have to hand it to the guy for his elite self-control. His years of social conditioning kick in smoothly, following a solid half-second of obvious internal short-circuiting. That bewildered stare melts back into a polished and hospitable, welcoming expression, even though his eyes are still silently yelling for an explanation. Stepping forward, he extends a hand out toward me, acting as if we are absolute strangers. Pure textbook first impression etiquette. "Mr. Chung, a warm welcome to the Zhao residence. Grandfather is currently waiting for your arrival inside the lounge." Taking his hand, I notice the grip is courteous yet defensive. It's the classic handshake of a guy who just watched his famously frosty sister claim some random dude as her significant other, and is fighting hard to keep his own brain from crashing. Meanwhile, right behind the two of us, Zhang Ziming has been demoted to a mere background extra in his very own romantic conquest. His gaze is locked onto Zhao Mukai, stepping out personally to welcome me. He watches Zhao Muning hang onto my sleeve as though I'm her final lifeline. His eyes dart straight to the gift carrier in my grasp, flawlessly put together and exquisitely wrapped, looking precisely like the kind of package a devoted suitor would bring to impress the family. All 3 pieces of evidence are pointing toward the exact same conclusion, utterly shattering that's just an act theory, completely wiped out, buried, and turned into ashes. The vibrant crimson flush on his face swiftly drains into a ghostly, ash-like pallor. His fingers grip the luxury gift bag so tightly that his knuckles turn bone white. A piercing gaze is fixed right on me, with a look that cuts way deeper than simple jealousy. "Pure, unadulterated venom," is radiating from his eyes. So my assumption was totally off base, seeing that the two of you are actually a thing. And today you're here to do the whole meet the parents routine. His voice sounds completely dry and fractured, as he desperately clings to the last shred of his denial. Joey Meaning shoots him a glance, as if he were nothing more than a mildly annoying gnat. "When else have you known me to kid about stuff like this? Playing pretend with family matters and using my elders as props just to mess with you." Twice his mouth opens and snaps shut in stunned silence. Not a single word escapes his lips because every snappy comeback, every sarcastic jab, and every ounce of his usual arrogance collapses completely against the crushing reality of this scene, which feels way more authentic than fiction itself. Without uttering another word, he spins around, marches over to his luxury ride, and slams the door with such raw fury that I'm honestly shocked the glass didn't shatter. The engine roars to life and the car peels out furiously, leaving behind a cloud of disturbed dust, while autumn leaves scatter through the air in his wake, acting like some overly dramatic confetti. Yet that parting glare of his scent, a genuine chill straight down my spine. That wasn't just the bitter expression of a guy who simply lost a romance rivalry. and decided to walk away, unlike Jihao, who wore that obvious total defeat look right on his face when Xiao Lihai totally crushed him. Zhang Ziming's vibe hits completely different, running way deeper. Feeling much colder and heavily obsessive. Having suffered public humiliation twice in a row. This guy has permanently etched every single second of it into his brain. You can bet he's plotting a comeback. Maybe not today, and probably not tomorrow. But sooner or later, I quietly figure to myself, Zhang Ziming is officially logged as a new threat on my growing list of real-world headaches, falling neatly between that shady research institute keeping tabs on me and the weird interdimensional food logistics. Though I honestly don't have the mental capacity for that right now, since Zhou Mukai is standing there grinning and motioning for me to step inside, while Zhou Muning remains firmly locked onto my arm, showing zero intention of ever letting go, leaving me walking straight into a billionaire family estate, acting as her alleged boyfriend when just 20 short minutes ago, I was merely the delivery guy dropping off ancient swords for an old man. While strolling along the classic cobblestone garden pathway, I sneak a quick sideways glance at Zhou Muning, whose facial expression remains remarkably composed, looking effortlessly cool and unbothered, as though declaring a guy to be her boyfriend, right in front of her own brother and a creepy stalker, is just part of her average Tuesday routine. Except her ears give her away completely, turning bright pink, with a blush that starts near the base and slowly creeps all the way up to the tips, spreading like a cinematic slow-motion effect. She tries hard to maintain that signature cool and collected vibe, where nothing ever phases her or catches her off guard. Yet right now, Zhou Muning is clearly low-key flustered. Upon catching me staring at her, her eyes flash with a split second of unexpected panic that is faint yet unmistakably real, prompting her to lower her tone into a hushed whisper meant strictly for my ears. Stop reading too much into this and let's just get inside right now. I'll give you the full rundown later. A low chuckle slips past my lips before I can stop it. That exact line is literally what you told me last time. Crazy right. You totally catfished me. Not a single clue was given that you were a Zhou family heiress. And now my status gets upgraded by you from random sidewalk. Fake boyfriend straight to meeting the parents. Calling this a fake boyfriend gig is a huge stretch. This feels way more like a hostage situation. Soft pink turns instantly into deep crimson at her ear tips. Her icy armor develops just a tiny, visible fracture. A rare flash of genuine, girlish awkwardness sweeps across her features. Right before she looks away, I have to admit something. It is low-key kind of adorable in a. My entire life is an absolute dumpster fire sort of way. Old money elegance defines the stunning Zhou family estate, where ancient architecture meets blooming osmanthus trees that flood the courtyard with a rich, sweet fragrance. Antique calligraphy scrolls line the main hall alongside valuable bronze relics, each probably worth way more than my entire shop combined. Walking ahead of us, Zhou Mukai delivers a smooth, guided tour. This piece right here is an authentic Dong Chi Chong running script. Calligraphy masterpiece, passed down proudly through generations of our family. And this particular bronze Gui vessel dates back to the late Qing dynasty. Remarkably well preserved are both its form and intricate engravings. His delivery stays completely calm and measured, with every single word placed with absolute perfection. He plays the ultimate golden boy of a prestigious household, yet his subtle little habits don't escape my notice. Twice during our short walk from the gate to the living room, he casually glances back over his shoulder, first checking on me, then eyeing Zhou Muning trailing behind. No hostility or suspicion lurks in his gaze. It is pure, classic big brother energy. Watching his perpetually single sister suddenly bring home a guy, and his brain simply cannot compute the plot twist. Meanwhile, Zhou Muning right behind us is totally imploding inside. Her inner monologue practically echoes in the air. It is over. My life is completely ruined. Mukai caught every single second of that at the front gate. He's going to rat me out to Grandpa, the very exact moment he gets the chance. My brother, who investigates everything under the sun, is about to run a full federal background check on Chengdong. Actually, he has probably already finished running it. Then the absolute worst realization dawns on her, hitting her facial expression in real time right before my eyes. Heavy and sudden like a grand piano dropping from the sky. Zhou Mukai, specifically, reminded her this morning that an important guest was arriving and told her to be on her absolute best behavior. Turns out that important VIP guest was yours truly. An official invitation to the house was already extended by her grandfather, recognizing me as his literal life-saving benefactor. There was zero need for her to pull off that hole. He is here to meet my parents' production. My entrance through the front door was happening anyway. Her entire dramatic, fake boyfriend power play back at the gate was a completely unnecessary and totally self-inflicted disaster. She literally invented an entire romantic subplot for a visit that was already pre-scheduled, based on the tiny micro-expressions flickering across her skin. I can tell she just reached that exact same conclusion and is currently feeling what can only be described as a deep yearning to simply vanish, leaving reality behind. That psychic chick who acts like she knows everything somehow totally missed the tiny detail that I was her grandpa's VIP guest, and there I was, Chungdong, just your average interdimensional potato dealer and certified dwarf elder, about to stroll straight into a billionaire's mansion, holding meticulously crafted gifts, while simultaneously being introduced to everyone as the main squeeze of the family's prized granddaughter. Sure, the Aldous continent has ancient sealed demons, brutal regional wars, and death corridors packed with 10,000-year-old bones. But honestly, nothing over there holds a candle to the sheer chaos of a Chinese family gathering. Grandpa Joe is lounging in the main hall, like an absolute boss on his throne, rocking a deep crimson traditional Chinese jacket, with his hair impeccably styled, looking 10 times healthier than he did yesterday at the Zhao estate. Mind you, the guy literally survived a car crash recently, yet he's radiating more raw energy than me. On my absolute best day, he spots me, bounds up instantly, snatches my hand, and hauls me inside like I'm his long-lost favorite grandson. Little Dong, finally! Things were way too hectic yesterday at that gel place. We couldn't even catch up properly. Sit down, sit down. SIT. Right after that, he pivots toward Joe Mukai. Tell the kitchen to whip up some extra dishes. Little Dong is staying for dinner tonight. Right away, grandfather, Joe Mukai replies, though he doesn't budge. Instead, he leans in close to the old man's ear and whispers something I can't quite catch. Still, I've got a front row seat to watch the old-timer's expression shift gears in real time. Phase 1, warm host smile. Phase 2, pleasantly surprised face. Phase 3, the absolute most deviously wicked, elderly grin I have ever witnessed on a living human being. He lets out a soft chuckle, glances past Joe Mukai, and locks his eyes right onto Joe Yunning, who is currently trying her absolute best to morph into the background wallpaper. Little Ning, get over here. Zooming creeps forward with the exact same level of enthusiasm as a prisoner marching to his own execution. Gone is her cool, composed, all-knowing Ice Queen vibe. She has officially been swapped out for a kid who just got caught red-handed with her hand in the cookie jar, cycling through every single stage of grief all at once. Pure embarrassment, deep regret, heavy denial, and, finally, complete and utter surrender. Grandpa Joe yanks her down beside him, plants me firmly on his other side, and suddenly he's posted right between us, like an overexcited matchmaker who just hit the lottery. He starts patting my hand with one palm, while keeping a firm grip on his granddaughter with the other, beaming like a proud son. Little Dong, I've been around the block a long time, and I've genuinely never seen anything this cinematic. Not only do I owe you my life, but it turns out you're dating my favorite granddaughter? Man, this isn't just a coincidence. This is high-key destiny. My mouth opens to speak, but absolutely nothing comes out. I steal a quick glance at Joe Minion. She's just intensely staring down at her own fingernails, like they're holding the literal keys to the universe. Her ears are glowing so bright crimson, they could low-key pass for a space heater. You sneaky little girl, Grandpa Joe teases her with a fond chuckle, secretly locking down a bay without giving the squad a heads up. Had your brother not dropped the news to me, I'd still be completely clueless. He cracks up, slapping his knee, as his hype level spikes every single second. Setting you up on awkward blind dates was my actual master plan. Handpicking decent young men. It turns out that whole mission was totally extra. Joey Unning shoots me a side-eye, a laser glare, with a silent vibe that spells out loud. Keep your mouth shut and just ride this wave out with me. Loud and clear, the message registers in my brain, prompting me to snatch my teacup and execute the longest sip of tea recorded in human history. An innocent bystander am I, mere living furniture witnessing and knowing absolutely nothing. Over by the doorway stands Joe Mukai, wearing a polished, picture-perfect smile on his face, while the corners of his lips are twitching fiercely from barely suppressed amusement. Bro is literally living his absolute best life. As he watches his little sister squirm in total panic, discreetly sliding his phone out of his pocket, which I catch entirely out of the corner of my eye, to text their parents live in real time, spilling all the spicy family drama instantly. This guy is an absolute menace disguised as a gentleman. Before slipping his phone away, resetting his expression back to the dutiful grandson persona, and sauntering back to stand right behind Grandpa Joe, as if nothing happened at all. Talk about an Oscar-worthy performance. Clapping his hands together with sudden enthusiasm, Grandpa Joe demands, "How long have you two been an item anyway?" So spill the tea to Grandpa. At the exact same split second, both of us blurt out our answers, mine being not very long, while Joe Muning fires back with quite a while, causing these two totally contradictory responses to crash head on midair and shatter all over the floor into tiny pieces, exchanging a look of pure, unadulterated panic. Joe Muning stammers, "It's honestly super hard to define precisely, since the whole timeline is kind of blurry," prompting me to nod frantically. Right. We can't really pin it down because our memories are totally hazy. Our coordination was so hilariously awful that literally anyone else would have seen right through it in 2 seconds flat. Yet Grandpa Joe's brain is running purely on heavy duty, destined soulmate energy, making him interpret all our clumsy fumbling as adorable shyness, as he lets out an even louder chuckle. "Well, seeing as you guys have been together this long, and everything is solid, shouldn't we start talking about marriage soon?" My tea nearly sprays right across the living room, causing me to slam down the cup while waving my hands wildly. "Grandpa Joe, that is moving way too fast. We haven't even thought about," before Grandpa Joe cuts in, flashing me a mock-stern expression, with eyes sparkling playfully with this relationship status. "You should already be calling me Grandpa. Just plain Grandpa," and drop the Joe, leaving my brain with a permanent file not found error, while Joe Muning turns completely crimson across her face, her neck, and probably all the way down to her shoulders, as she frantically tugs on the old man's sleeve in desperation. "Grandpa, seriously, quit messing around. If you keep pulling this stunt, I'm walking out of here and ghosting you forever." "Who's joking?" he fires back, looking genuinely ticked off. "Romantic relationships are meant to end up at the altar. You can't just mess around for fun." Spinning back around toward me, he scans my face with a look of supreme satisfaction. "Little Dong, I've already done my research on your background. You're rock solid and totally dependable. An all-around good kid, honestly. My original plan was to officially adopt you as my honorary grandson. Since you saved my life," he grins broadly. "Now, I don't even have to bother with that step, because you're getting promoted straight to grandson-in-law. You seriously can't beat this kind of destiny." His voice drops to a softer register, and the playful old man vanishes for a brief second, giving way to an unmistakable wave of genuine warmth. "Little Dong, I know you're flying solo in this harsh world, with zero family or elders to watch your back. I want you to know right now that the Joe family will never look down on you. Because of that, starting today, this household is your family. We are your people, and no matter what happens, we've always got your back." That actually hits me right in the feels. My parents passed away, and my relatives completely cut me off, back when I was drowning in debt. I've been riding solo for quite a while now. So hearing an elder say, "We are your family," with absolute, unreserved sincerity, yet before my brain can even process that emotional wave, Grandpa Joe is already barking out commands. "Mukai, take charge of this right now. Find an auspicious date and get these two officially engaged. If a full-blown wedding is too rushed for right now, at the very least, lock down the engagement. Make it public. I want the entire city to know that Little Dong is the official chosen grandson-in-law of the Joe family." Joe Mukai snaps immediately to attention, moving like a disciplined soldier taking orders. "Yes, grandfather. I will handle all the arrangements right away. Consider it done." Wait. Hold on." I thrust my hand into the air like an eager student interrupting a lecture. "Can we please hit the brakes? We're still super young, so there's zero reason to rush." I glans over at umynning for backup. She has both palms completely plastered across her face, peeking at me through a tiny gap between her fingers, with a single eye that clearly screams, "I have zero control over this man. I've totally lost my authority in my own house. So you're on your own, buddy." Drawing a heavy breath, I decide to try a more diplomatic approach. "Grandpa, getting married is a massive life milestone, and since Muning and I are still young, can we take a little time to talk it through properly? before giving you a final answer. Of course. Of course. Young folks should always make their own choices. He waves his hand magnanimously. Take all the time you need, talk it over amongst yourselves, and let Grandpa know whenever you're ready. No pressure at all. Zero pressure. Then he adds with a mischievous twinkle in his eye. After all, it's really just a matter of time anyway. Only a matter of time. Those 4 simple words drop right on my shoulders, with the crushing force of a physical weight. And right when I'm convinced this chaos has reached its absolute peak, a bright, echoing down the hallway, a curious female voice suddenly breaks the quiet. Our little Ning actually brought a boyfriend home. Can you believe it? 2 energetic figures stride straight into the room while demanding to see him. Dressed in a dark Chinese-style jacket stands a middle-aged man. He looks totally calm and deeply dignified. An older, more refined version of Zhou Mukai is mirrored in his exact face. Meet Zhou Muin's father, Zhou Zhangyan. Walking right next to him is a well-preserved woman wrapped in an elegant qipao. Pure curiosity and genuine excitement sparkle brightly in her eyes. That's Qin Shu, Zhou Munich's mother. They rushed home specifically because Zhou Mukai texted them the news. This whole gathering is because of that. Her father gives me a thorough once-over with that classic dad look. You know, the classic evaluating daughter's boyfriend expression. He appears serious, yet totally fair, measuring me up without a hint of hostility. His son's prior report has already filled him in on everything. Her mother, however, is an entirely different story. She walks straight up to where I'm standing. Without hesitation, she subjects me to a full up-and-down inspection. Wearing the biggest smile, she blurts out, "So you're Qing Dong?" Dad literally hasn't stopped talking about you non-stop. Who could have ever imagined that our little Ning's mystery boyfriend would end up being the exact same guy who saved his life? This insane destiny is unreal. She nods approvingly while practically glowing with joy. Such a reliable and steady young man we have here, proving our little Ning has top-tier taste. Barely 30 minutes have flown by, and my status has transformed wildly from a guest gifting swords to an old man, straight into the Zhou family's officially approved future grandson-in-law. With both parents, a grandfather, and a brother all rallying together, they're giving me the full VIP welcome treatment. Right now, I'm having a major out-of-body experience. Zhou Muning looks like she desperately wishes the floor would open up and swallow her alive. Somewhere deep in the back of my mind, a quiet inner voice whispers, "You battle ancient sealed demons on the daily. You casually smuggle potatoes across different dimensions, and you routinely survive being drowned, frozen, or hunted down by magical beasts without breaking a sweat. Yet nothing could have ever prepared you for Chinese in-laws." Dinner hosted at the Zhou estate turns out to be a full-scale assault of aggressive hospitality. Zhou Zhangyan, who is Muning's dad, has the personal butler Pop open an exclusive vintage bottle of wine that has literally been aging since before I was born. Meanwhile, her mom, Qin Shu, has officially appointed herself as my personal feeding machine. Every 30 seconds flat, another heavy dish gets piled onto my plate. "Little Dong, eat more. Don't be shy at all." This lion's head meatball is the master chef's ultimate specialty, and this soup is super nourishing. Fantastically good for your stomach, so try it. God, I'm being fed like a prize-winning show pig, being fattened up for a major festival. Except the festival happening is apparently my own wedding. Grandpa Joe spends the entirety of the meal interrogating me intensely about ancient forging techniques. Honestly, though, this is the one part of the night I am actually comfortable with. I eagerly break down the complex theories Ironstone taught me. Carbon ratios, precise hammer angles, and grain structures, while the old man nods along closely, as if I'm delivering a high-level university lecture. All those brutal study sessions spent underground with the dwarves are paying off in a most wildly unexpected way. Zhou Mukai continues eating her dinner with flawless, aristocratic grace, tossing in polite chit-chat every now and then, playing the part of the textbook sweet grandson. Yet I catch him low-key stealing glances at his sister every couple of minutes with barely contained pure joy, right as Zhou Munnings fires back, a death glare intense enough to incinerate an average dude. Still, he keeps walking right back into the crossfire. This kid is seriously fearless, while Zhou Munnings herself is devouring her rice with the sheer concentration of someone trying to disarm a live wire. Eyes glued to her plate and head ducked low, her ears staying flushed crimson every few moments. She risks a stealthy look my way to see if I'm still breathing, before instantly snapping back to her ceramic bowl. hiding away like a turtle retreating into its shell. The entire dinner feels deeply heartfelt and warm. And honestly, I have not felt this kind of true family vibe in ages, though it is also completely wild, since none of this was ever supposed to go down. Once dinner wraps up, everyone clears out except Grandpa Joe, who grabs my forearm and murmurs, "Little Dong, follow me to my study. I need a quick word in private." The room is stunning, featuring soaring floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a massive rosewood desk, and the rich scent of old paper and ink. It radiates that heavy-hitting, powerful patriarch energy about to drop some heavy truth. He shuts the heavy door behind us, and the cheerful grandpa persona vanishes, giving way to an expression carved out of absolute gravity and sincerity. He expresses his gratitude once more for saving his life, before dropping the ultimate plot twist. "Little Dong, that mysterious elixir you handed me down by the lake. I know for a fact that it was no ordinary medication. Whatever magic was in it dragged me back from the grave, had me bouncing back in under a month flat, and somehow even wiped out chronic ailments I had been suffering with for years." I can practically feel my blood pressure spike as he notices. Of course, the sharp old man notices, considering he went from a walking corpse to thriving in record time, faster than ever before. Catching my sudden tension, he immediately waves his hand dismissively. "Relax, I am not here to grill you about where you scored it. After all, everyone is entitled to their own fortune and secrets." Lowering his tone into something soft and intensely earnest. "I just need you to always remember that your immense kindness is permanently etched into the Joe family ledger. No matter what sort of chaos comes your way, or what kind of obstacles try to block your path, the entire Joe household will forever back you up. We are your ultimate ride or die support system here." I stand there frozen in silence for a brief beat, while an overwhelming rush of warmth floods my chest. It has been ages since anyone has spoken to me like that. My parents are long gone, and my relatives ghosted me the second those heavy debts piled up, leaving me to carry the entire world on my own shoulders. "Thank you so much, Grandpa." The words finally slip out of my mouth completely naturally, stripped of all awkwardness and filled with raw appreciation. We chat for a bit longer, before stepping back out of the quiet study into the cool night air. The courtyard is wrapped in shadows, while the subtle fragrance of osmanthus blooms drifts through the breeze. Grandpa Joe tries to convince me to crash here for the night, though I politely decline since I have some interdimensional side quests to run, keeping that last part to myself, of course. Joe Munnings walks me all the way out to the front gate, stopping beneath the spreading branches of the osmanthus tree, as soft moonlight filters through the canopy, casting a gentle glow across her flowing white dress. The heavy silence hanging between us feels low-key awkward, yet bizarrely calm as she lets out a heavy sigh. While this situation is officially a total train wreck, my aching temples get massaged by my tired fingers. All evening long, I was just getting dragged around by completely uncontrollable outside forces. My brain is still trying to process everything, glancing up at me under the moonlight for once. Her usual defenses completely vanish from her voice. "Seriously, though, I really appreciate you saving my grandfather. He happens to be the person who loves me most in this whole wide world." Then that familiar flash of annoyance returns to her face. Arguing with him is also completely impossible. The second he makes up his mind about something. Throw in my brother, who loves to fan the flames, and my mom, who is 100% sold on you already. Now her entire family genuinely thinks this romance is real. Watching her flustered expression prompts a soft sigh from me. I know for a fact that none of this is your fault. What's done is done, so we will figure out step by step. That is literally all we can do, as she gives a nod, while something complicated flickers deep within her eyes. "Drive safely, and please be super careful out there." Leaving the Grand Joe estate behind, I nod and walk away. Right behind me, a sweet osmanthus fragrance drifts along the night breeze. The moonlight overhead looks soft and gorgeous. Yet this massive storm of overlapping favors, wild misunderstandings, and this fake relationship is honestly only just getting started. Walking back home, I keep replaying Grandpa Joe's words. This family is your family. While experiencing unfamiliar emotions, I usually keep locked away. The warmth coming from the Joe family feels totally different from the strictly business politeness of the Zhaos. Over at the Zhaos, I am treated as a valued supplier, whereas the Joes treat me much closer to actual family. How I should feel about that remains a mystery, but I definitely don't hate it until I cut into a dark alley, and my philosophical vibe gets violently interrupted. Harsh car headlights suddenly flare right in my face. 13 guys suddenly pour out from the shadows, armed to the teeth with baseball bats and heavy steel pipes. Stepping forward, the leader sports a tight buzz cut, a neck tattoo peeking just above his collar, and an unlit cigarette dangling loosely from his lips. After double-checking a photo displayed on his phone, he looks right at me and gives a sharp chin tilt. That is the guy break his arms and legs right now. Just make sure you don't kill him. My alcohol buzz vanishes in approximately 0.0001 seconds flat. A lightning-fast mental scan reveals a narrow alley, with zero room to escape and 13 armed targets closing in. The leader already has a switchblade popped wide open. The old Chengdong from a few months back would have been totally destroyed right here. That past version of Chengdong couldn't even carry 50 pounds without getting exhausted. Meanwhile, the current Chengdong has been training daily with the Dwarf King. As the first guy swings a bat, I deftly step aside and strike a sharp blow straight into his elbow pit. His grip instantly collapses, causing the bat to clatter loudly against the wall. A second thug charges forward, swinging a steel pipe overhead. I quickly close the distance and slam my entire body into his, sending him flying backward, crashing onto the ground. Iron Dome was totally right about these guys and their movements, which look painfully slow compared to my usual training partners. Dwarf combat training was specifically designed for battling actual monsters and heavily armored warriors. Even street thugs with baseball bats look like they're wading through thick syrup. Just 3 minutes and all 13 are down in the dirt groaning, writhing around, and totally rethinking their life choices. I yank the ringleader up by his collar, demanded to know who hired them, but he clams right up. 2 solid slaps later, though, the tea gets spilled real quick. Young Master Zhang Jiming is the mastermind behind this mess. Of course it's him, totally salty after getting clowned twice. And his genius comeback is sending 13 dudes with pipes. I genuinely took him for a spoiled brat, simply struggling with a massive ego. Turns out that ego comes bundled with felony-level criminal vibes. Street thugs are just the opening act for today, because I'm about to catch a flight overseas soon. Once my feet leave national soil, I'm completely out of everyone's protective umbrella. There goes the mighty Xiao family clout, and there goes the Zhou family backing, leaving Zhang Ziming petty enough and stupidly rich enough to chase me across international borders. I toss the leader aside and casually dust off my palms, stepping right over the weeping bodies strewn across the alleyway, before walking away without a single backward glance. Back at the shop, I collapse onto my narrow cot, dabbing a bit of iodine onto the scraped knuckles from the rumble. Just another typical Tuesday in my chaotic life sequence. Fake boyfriend gig for a billionaire family dinner, followed by a street brawl against hired hoodlums, and topped off with some interdimensional travel prep. I've been leaping through dimensions every single night, desperately trying to spawn near the Elven Forest. Instead, the chaotic teleportation lottery has graciously blessed me with deaths by drowning, deep freeze, hypothermia, and being swallowed whole by mythical beasts. Yet absolutely zero sign of Elven territory. Securing food isn't even my main headache right now. Intel is, I desperately need to make contact with the elves. With the beast tooth necklace firmly secured, and the glowing crystal in my grip, the clock strikes 11:58. Eyes tightly shut as midnight wipes my waking consciousness out. My eyes snap open to the sight of an endless wilderness. I blink heavily inside a deeply overgrown woodland, as pale golden sunlight filters through the leafy canopy, above a thick, damp blanket of rotting foliage on the soil. My fingers clutch the heavy positioning crystal, though I hold off on triggering its magic just yet. Could this finally be the legendary Elven Forest? After spending weeks perishing miserably in oceans, across frozen glaciers and inside monster bellies, did my cursed lottery luck finally pay off for once? I draw my trusty watermelon machete from my gear. Yes, I proudly wield a watermelon machete as my main combat weapon, in a savage fantasy realm, so don't even judge me, and start stealthily creeping between the massive trunks, even though something feels deeply wrong. The surrounding trees look heavily twisted and aggressive, choked out by dark emerald strands of poisonous vines. The heavy air reeks of wild animal musk, blended with decaying earth, completely devoid of bird songs, replaced instead by a low, sinister rumbling growl echoing from every direction at once. Iron Dome swore the Elven territory was full of gentle creatures. I mutter under my breath because this definitely ain't gentle. I press forward with the exploration anyway, caught somewhere between reckless bravery and sheer stupidity. The verdict's still out as I break through to a dried-up riverbed, littered with fractured boulders and withered dead shrubs. Before a sudden sound hits my ears, rumors. Casting a colossal shadow over me, an edifice-sized presence glides right across. With every heavy stomp, the ground violently jars and shakes beneath my boots. Peeking past a massive boulder, I spot a ridiculously huge ape, sporting a brown fur coat, resembling a towering mountain peak. Every single footstep shatters the dry, cracked riverbed open. Pivoting its massive head, it scans my general direction lazily. The absolute crushing weight of that intense glare makes the surrounding air feel thick as solid concrete. Holy crap, King Kong! I yank the behemoth tooth necklace straight off my neck and quickly shove it deep inside my spatial storage ring. No way in hell am I letting that savage beast pick up any interesting magical signature. Off my gear, smashing the teleport crystal down with such insane force that I'm genuinely shocked it didn't shatter into dust. With a sudden spatial tear, I vanish, reappearing instantly inside the grandeur of the Dwarf King's Hall, while gasping for breath like I just sprinted a marathon through the underworld. Iron Dome and a handful of senior generals are hunched tightly over a war map, looking super grim, though they all jerk their heads up to stare at me, because I probably look like I've just encountered a literal apparition. A seriously oversized apparition. What the heck just happened? Why on earth do you look like that? I totally thought I'd touch down safely in the elven canopy. But nope, a colossal ape was waiting there instead, and it was aggressively enormous. I honestly almost became Prime Ape Chow, Grand Elder. Iron Fury squints hard at me, asking, "An ape? You surely don't mean the legendary destruction demon ape, do you?" Probably considering. It measured up to the size of a suburban house, and the oppressive aura radiating off it could flatten a semi-truck. Iron Dome's eyes pop wide open, gasping, "Holy crap, you actually managed to stumble into one of those living nightmares." That's literally rated as one of the absolute top tier magical beasts roaming across the entire oldest continent. You must have accidentally warped straight into the deep core of the monster forest. Man, it's a miracle you jetted out of there fast, or you'd have turned into instant primate fertilizer. He's clearly been hanging out around me way too long, because his humor is seriously degrading. I'd honestly be offended if my knees weren't still trembling anyway. Well, I'm just glad you're breathing. We've got 3 major issues to tackle, and none of them sound promising. Taking a seat, the playful banter instantly dies down, as Iron Dome drops his voice to a serious, gravelly whisper, starting with, "First off, the human empire's diplomatic mediation efforts have completely imploded. Both the Diana Kingdom's crown prince and the Minotaur shaman priest were brutally assassinated on the exact same night, executed using the exact same modus operandi, hearts cleanly pierced and ripped out, while all surrounding doors and windows remained totally untouched. The palace guards heard nothing, leaving behind 0 forensic evidence. Naturally, the furious Minotaurs are immediately pointing fingers at the Empire, while Diana's royal family is right back at it, blaming the Minotaurs instead. That fragile ceasefire agreement turned into literal toilet paper, long before anyone even had the chance to sign it. Second, those sneaky kobolds are aggressively doubling down on reinforcements, fueling the Minotaur main army, now boasting a massive force 200,000 strong, that is currently accelerating its march south. Kobold scout units have already pushed dangerously close to the outer perimeter of our frontline mining outposts. Third, all elven communication lines have gone completely radio silent. Our final magical correspondence, Carrier Pigeon, arrived roughly 3 days ago. Ever since then, those pig-headed brutes integrated a specialized signal-blocking magic barrier right around their encampment, effectively jamming every single elven magical transmission attempt, meaning nobody out here has a clue what's going down inside the elven forest anymore. Hearing that, my stomach instantly plummets straight down through the floor. Every single scenario I've been dreading is actually coming true. Turns out this ruthless blockade is way more than just a wall. A deadly noose is slowly tightening its grip here. Those pigheads aren't just locking down roads anymore. Every single connection is being systematically choked off, which the elves desperately need with the outside world. A war is deliberately sparked by the prince, while elves and dwarves are completely cut off at the exact same time by the beast folk. Assassinations of both key diplomats happen on the exact same night, to thoroughly crush any lingering hope for peace. Each calculated move preys directly on the fatal flaws of all four races. Winning isn't even the goal here. Ensuring that absolutely everybody takes a massive L is what matters. This high-level assassination style definitely doesn't feel like something regular humans, or even beast folk, could ever pull off. I'm seriously wondering if some twisted dark magic is at play in all this. Iron Dome drags his finger across the map, tracing a circle. That links up the Dwarf Mountains, along with the Elven Forest, Diana Kingdom, and Minotaur territory. Right on the border, separating Diana from the Minotaurs, he halts his finger. The prince and the shaman both drop dead on the exact same night, at spots way too far apart for just one lonely killer. Either a whole squad of hitmen was deployed, or this assassin possesses insane teleportation perks, way beyond anything ever heard of on this continent. Grand Elder Iron Fury breaks the heavy silence with a grim tone. Everything would totally add up if we're dealing with the undead faction. Back in that ancient war 10 millennia ago, the scariest thing about the undead wasn't even their raw individual combat muscle. It was their eerie knack for materializing anywhere, dressed up as literal black mist. Breaking through walls wasn't required for them, nor did they need to sneak past checkpoints. They could just pop up right inside the enemy's backyard, under the cover of night, execute the target, and ghost. Iron Dome gives a slow shake of his head. Even so, that's still pure speculation, with zero hard evidence to back it up as I mull it over. Waiting for the next Elven dispatch is our best bet. We're scoring much sharper scout intelligence. One major takeaway is already locked in, though. No matter who's secretly pulling the strings, an invisible hand is intentionally cutting off all four races from one another, while severing every single line of communication. Right at that exact moment, a dwarf messenger bursts frantically into the hall, clutching a scorched green leaf in his hand. Another magical letter from the elves arrives, though this particular piece looks like it barely made it out of a raging fire. Severe charring has eaten away at most of the text. Iron Dome narrows his eyes, sounding out what remains word by painful word. Patrolling Elven Rangers stationed behind the Pighead blockade stumbled upon an unidentified army, clad entirely in pitch-black armor, with cold metal masks completely concealing their faces. They glide forward in dead silence. Beast folk, they certainly are not, nor do they fit any recognized species living in all this. Deep within a specific pocket of the Elven Woods, the ground has started shifting into a sickening black color. Vegetation is rapidly dying off, and a permanent, stomach-turning stench of decay hangs heavy in the air. It lines up, word for word, with ancient Elven records detailing Pure undead corruption zone. Iron Dome gently sets down the charred leaf. This message was dispatched 3 whole days ago. By the time it finally landed in our hands, it was practically burnt to a crisp. The enemy's blockades are getting way tighter, yet the elves somehow managed to push through one final transmission. Whether another one will ever arrive is completely unknown to everyone. A massive amount of arcane energy is required to dispatch magical letters. We dwarves are unable to reply back. Getting ready for all-out war is our only option left now. A heavy, suffocating silence fills the chamber. Suddenly, a dwarf guard dashes inside. Gasping for air, he cries, "My king!" The kobold forces are on the move. Roughly 200,000 troops are currently marching straight toward the mountain entrance. Well, there officially goes my chill potato farming lifestyle. What? Iron Dome slams his fist onto the stone table so hard it fractures. He instantly grabs the Forge Warhammer, that legendary ancestral weapon we just handed back to him, while literal flames are flashing in his furious eyes. Those worthless dog mutts. They really think my mountain is some kind of playground, where they can stroll in whenever they feel like it. Grand Elder, secure the palace immediately. All units, except for the reserves, converge on the mountain entrance right now. His booming voice makes the solid stone walls rattle. Then he swings around to face me, asking, "Chung Dong, are you rolling with us to the front line?" I give a nod, answering, "Of course I'm rolling. I've been grinding and training for months. I've got my trusty watermelon machete ready, and I've already gone toe-to-toe with an ancient sealed demon lord. So it's a mere 200,000 dog-headed soldiers. Actually, now that I say it out loud, that's low-key terrifying, but whatever. Anyway, we hop onto Stonehorn Mountain goats, which are basically the dwarf equivalent of heavy war horses, and blast through the winding tunnels at max speed. 30 minutes later, we finally arrive at the mountain entrance. Peering out over the defensive walls, my stomach instantly does a crazy backflip. The valley down below is an endless ocean of cobalt blue, 200,000 of them stretching all the way to the horizon, wielding rusty axes and dull spears, screeching and howling like the absolute worst concert ever. They form a living, breathing black tide pressing hard against the mountain's base. Our dwarf warriors are locked and loaded. Massive reinforced gates and sealed walls are bristling heavily with crossbow turrets and towering catapults. Thousands of sharp arrow tips glinting fiercely in the daylight are all aimed straight down. Suddenly, the massive kobold army parts just like the Red Sea, and their big boss casually strolls out. This absolute unit is twice the size of a normal kobold, draped in rugged black animal pelts, and hauling a bone hammer that is easily bigger than I am. His terrifying face is completely covered in savage scars. One eye is a lifeless milky white, and he radiates pure. I've murdered people for pure fun energy. It's Black Fong, the notorious kobold chieftain. Glancing up at Iron Dome station on the wall, he unleashes the most ear-shattering, obnoxious cackle. Iron Dome, you old fossil. Long time no see. You totally didn't expect me, did you? Iron Dome violently smashes his war hammer onto the battlements, barking, Black Fong, you dragged all these clowns to my doorstep. You must have a death wish. Chuckling with a smug, arrogant grin, Black Fong shakes his head and replies, Iron Dome, you're a saint-level warrior now, so you can't just go throwing attacks around whenever you feel like it. That completely violates the rules. Besides, fighting isn't why I'm here. I come strictly to talk terms. With a laugh so booming it mimics rolling thunder, Iron Dome speaks up. You're bargaining with me? You better hear me out first. With a dismissive wave of his hand, Black Fong brushes it off. Everyone knows you dwarves are tight with the elves. Sure, backing up the Diana Kingdom is on your mind. Still, let me level with you. Stay completely out of this mess. Stepping closer, he raises his pitch on purpose, making sure every single dwarf lined up on the wall hears him loud and clear. Diana and the Minotaurs. That clash is strictly between beast folk and humans. Just sit this one out, you guys. As a personal guarantee from yours truly, not a single kobold foot is ever setting pace on your mountain. Once we're done handling Diana, we'll pull back our forces and toss some sweet spoils of war your way. Sounds like a solid deal, right? Trembling furiously with pure rage, Iron Dome glares down. Do you really take me for a fool who doesn't see your game? By cutting off our vital supply routes heading to the Elven Forest. Your obvious goal is to starve us out. Did you seriously think we'd let you weaponize food against us, like you did back then? His voice rolls like waves across the valley. I'm giving it to you straight, Black Fawn. If you refuse to retreat before our full army finishes mobilizing, I'll personally come down there and take your head. The smug grin instantly vanishes from Black Fong's face. Right after that, Elder Iron Rock steps right up beside Iron Dome and drops an absolute mic drop speech. Save your breath, Black Fong, it's useless. Your scheme has been completely exposed to us, carrying the authoritative weight of a veteran commander. His voice echoes across the entire mountain pass. Fighting isn't why you're here. You're just stalling for time. You're waiting for our food stocks to run completely dry, so you can strike when we're at our weakest. Wrong. Right now, the Dwarf Mountains hold enough food reserves to easily last us 3 whole years. Meanwhile, your massive army of 200,000 troops burns through supplies every single day. Honestly, how long can you guys even last? For as long as we successfully hold this pass, not a single one of you can take a step inside. The longer this whole standoff drags on, the worse things get for you. Crouched quietly behind a sturdy stone pillar, I take in every single word, feeling a chaotic mix of intense pride and sheer terror wash over me. I'm proud because Iron Rock just totally shattered Black Fong's entire strategy, using nothing more than basic math. I am terrified because something about this whole unfolding scene just doesn't add up at all. Black Fong's complexion darkens instantly like heavy cast iron, fixing a harsh glare first on Iron Rock and then on Iron Dome. He grips his bone hammer so tight it starts creaking. Then he pulls a completely unexpected move. He lets out a chilling, skin-crawling, and spine-chilling laugh that makes every single hair on my body stand right on end. Good, that is very good. You stubborn. Little dwarves are definitely going to regret today's choice. Do you really think holding this broken mountain pass means you're safe and sound? You honestly have zero clue what you're actually up against. Licking his dry, cracked lips slowly, his voice drops down into something hovering right near a whisper, and a massive threat is looming right around the corner. You're about to find out what true, soul-crushing despair feels like. With a sudden pivot, he whirls around, swings his massive bone hammer, and lets out a deafening roar. Fall back, troops, and pitch camp right at the base. The entire kobold army starts withdrawing, spreading out into a seemingly endless blanket of black tents. All across the valley floor, a synchronized wave of relief washes over the dwarf soldiers lining the walls. Tense shoulders slump down as white-knuckled grips on heavy weapons finally loosen. Yet I remain completely on edge, not relaxed even a tiny bit. Iron Dome steps down from the ramparts and finds me slouching casually against a stone pillar, fidgeting restlessly with an iron ingot pulled straight from my spatial ring. My brow is furrowed, so intensely deep. You could practically plant crops inside the wrinkles. Something is seriously off, I mutter. Iron Dome give a heavy nod, his knuckles staying ghostly white around his warhammer's handle. That guy Black Fong is an absolute psycho. Normally, the second he lays eyes on dwarves, he completely loses his mind, charging headfirst straight into our defenses, just for a chance to rip someone apart. But today, he just strolls in, talks all diplomatic-like, and then retreats. No way, something fishy is definitely going down. It was his parting words that are really bugging me. I say quietly, recalling how he claimed, "We have no clue what's actually coming our way," which basically means those kobolds are just low-level pawns, hiding something much bigger behind them. Something infinitely worse, and honestly, it's almost certainly the undead race. My gaze remains locked onto the distant kobold camp. Amidst the fading twilight, the last golden rays of sunlight are rapidly draining from the sky. The dark silhouette of the encampment blurs straight into the creeping night, looking disturbingly like a sleeping predator waiting for the right moment to pounce. And I seriously doubt they're just here to trap us with a blockade. I whisper, my voice dropping to a low tone. They're just stalling, waiting for something major to finish prepping. The very microsecond those words escape my lips, a panicked scout comes stumbling frantically down the wall steps, his face drained of all color, looking like chalk, his voice shaking so violently he can barely string two words together. My king, Elder Chunk, right behind the main kobold camp. A massive, terrifying cloud of black fog has just materialized, wherever that unnatural mist spreads. Even the grass instantly withers and the solid rocks turn pitch black. Iron Dome and I instantly lock eyes. Within that single, heavy glance, every shred of anxiety I'm feeling is mirrored right back at me. There's no shock left, no confusion whatsoever. Just pure, bone-chilling, ice-cold dread. The legendary undead race has actually arrived. This isn't just a crazy theory or a wild suspicion anymore, nor is it some dusty myth from 10,000 years ago. They are literally here right now, lurking behind a horde of 200,000 kobolds, sitting right at the front door of the dwarven strongholds. Meanwhile, the dwarves, the elves, and every single living race across this entire continent have zero idea what kind of absolute nightmare is about to blindside them. Well, except for me, that is, because I accidentally stumbled into the sealed tomb of their supreme leader and watched him literally scream his lungs out before perishing in sheer terror, after getting spooked out of existence by something randomly on my body, which, now that I actually think about it, might honestly be the only leverage anyone on this entire continent holds. Too bad I still haven't figured out what that superpower-like advantage actually is. That menacing black fog continues to roll out from behind the kobold line, shaping up to be the absolute most horrifying sight I have ever laid eyes on. Across both of the worlds I've lived in, this isn't your average mist drifting aimlessly with the breeze, folks. There's an intentional drive behind this fog. Like some kind of living organism, it slithers across the dirt. It's giving off serious predator hunting its prey vibes. And absolute destruction follows everything it brushes against. In mere seconds, lush grass shatters into pitch-black ash. Solid rocks corrode away, while tent canvas practically dissolves on contact. There's no fire or structural collapse whatsoever. The entire build just reduces itself to a tiny heap of dust. Then the agonizing shrieks echo out. I've binged my share of horror films. Hardcore survival video games are my jam. Once, a shady pop-up ad gave me such a massive jump scare that my computer monitor went crashing down. Yet nothing, literally nothing on this planet, can mentally prepare you to witness a living soul get its entire life force violently stripped away, right before your eyes. I yank a telescope straight out of my spatial ring, shoving one over to Iron Dome. Whatever my eyes catch through that glass instantly makes my stomach turn inside out, nauseatingly close to my throat. A panicked kobold soldier is sprinting for his dear life. A snake-like tendril of black fog lunges forward, snagging his neck and freezing him dead in his tracks. Within seconds, his skin shrivels up and turns pitch black. It's brutal. Vital energy drains from his body like liquid pouring from a shattered cup. He collapses to the ground, and then comes the exact scene that's going to haunt my nightmares forever. No capítulo. The lifeless corpse spasms violently before hoisting itself back up. Hollow black pits replace its eyes. Ominous dark patterns crawl beneath its skin like squirming worms. It grabs its dropped axe without hesitation and charges at its own retreating comrades. I've seen plenty of zombie flicks. This whole ordeal is way worse than any zombie movie, because standard zombie flicks come with end credits and popcorn. This nightmare has neither of those. Ice-cold sweat is soaking straight through my back. My trembling hands are shaking so violently that I'm barely holding onto the telescope. My frantic heartbeat pounds so hard I can literally hear it inside my head. Right beside me, a dwarf soldier is muttering curses under his breath, his voice quivering. We're both terrified out of our minds, and neither of us is trying to play tough. They can shift effortlessly between a solid physical shape and a cloud of black fog. Iron Dome deadpans right next to me, his tone completely monotone. This guy is watching an actual apocalypse unfold right now. Yet he sounds like he's just reading off a local weather forecast. I've known him for months, and I've never once caught a glimpse of fear in him. Honestly, I doubt the guy is even capable of feeling scared. According to our ancestral archives detailing the undead race, that black fog isn't just some ordinary weapon. It's literally their alternative form. Any living creature that comes into contact with it gets its life force instantly vacuumed out. From there, they inject their own consciousness straight into the empty shell. The thing isn't a kobold anymore. It's just a grim puppet wearing stolen kobold skin. Flashbacks hit me of the Death God's Hall, where the sealed undead leader tried sucking my life essence away. That sensation wasn't exactly physical pain, more like something deeply intrinsic being ripped from your bones. Those poor kobolds are currently living through that exact nightmare 1,000 times over. Except they don't get the luxury of respawning safely in a storage room. Gánh nặng trên vai, Iron Dome đăm đăm hướng ánh nhìn xuyên qua lớp sương mù đặc quán. Giữa chiến trường cổ xưa ấy, nỗi đau đớn lớn nhất của liên quân không phải là việc đối đầu với lũ thây ma. Trái lại, thứ sát thương họ nhiều nhất lại đến từ nhiệm vụ quái oăm, buộc phải ra tay vung vũ khí hạ gục chính những người đồng đội. Vừa mới kề vai sát cánh bên mình, chỉ cách đó vài khoảnh khắc ngắn ngủi, vang lên từ doanh trại phía dưới. Tiếng gầm thét của Black Fang xé toạc bầu không khí hỗn loạn. Nó chất chứa đầy sự thô ráp, vụn vỡ và cơn thịnh nộ bùng nổ. Chúng mày lừa tao, lũ tiểu nhân lừa đảo khốn nạn. Gào thét điên cuồng, hắn vung chiếc búa xương khổng lồ, phang thẳng tay để dọn sạch đường của những tên lính đang hớt hải bỏ chạy. Toàn thân hắn bê bết máu, nhuộm đỏ đến mức chẳng thể phân biệt được đó là máu của ai. Hắn ngẩng đầu gào thét vào màn sương mù đã nhẫn tâm phản bội mình. Thế nhưng, màn sương vô tình ấy hoàn toàn phớt lờ, vẫn kiên nhẫn tiến bước đầu đặn, như một cỗ máy lạnh lùng được lập trình sẵn chỉ cho một mục đích duy nhất. Và ngay lúc đó, tôi đã nhìn thấu toàn bộ chiến thuật này. Lớp sương mù hắc ám đang siết chặt từ ba hướng, cùng một thời điểm, nhưng lại chừa trống một góc duy nhất. Đó chính là hướng đối diện với bức tường đá kiên cố của người lùn. Chúng đang dồn ép những kẻ may mắn sống sót trong quân đoàn kobold lao thẳng về phía chúng ta. Bọn chúng đang tận dụng chính đám đồng lính kobold đang hoảng loạn, khiếp sợ và cùng đường ấy để làm một chiếc búa tả sống, càn quét vào tuyến phòng thủ của phe ta. Lũ thây ma thậm chí còn chẳng cần phải nhúng tay chiến đấu trực tiếp. Chúng chỉ đơn giản lùa bọn kobold đâm sầm vào thành trì của chúng ta, rồi thản nhiên tỏa sơn quan hổ đấu, để hai chủng tộc từ tàn sát lẫn nhau. Thật là một nước đi tàn độc nhưng vô cùng thiên tài. Nó hoàn toàn trùng khớp với những gì tôi có thể đoán trước. Từ một thế lực từng suýt chút nữa thôn tính cả một đại lục rộng lớn, Iron Dome cũng nhanh chóng nhận ra điều đó. Anh lập tức gầm lên lệnh cho đội thông tin, phải lên đạn cho toàn bộ các tháp nỏ phòng thủ. Hãy chuẩn bị chiến đấu nào, vì khu trại kobold giờ đây đã biến thành một tầng địa ngục thực thụ. Trong tổng số khoảng 300.000 quân lính kobold ban đầu, thì có đến gần 200.000 mạng đã bỏ mạng và bị làn sương quỷ quyệt hồi sinh. 200.000 cỗ máy bù nhìn mang gương mặt của chính những người anh em ruột thịt, nay quay lưng tàn sát những kẻ sống sót, bằng chính thứ vũ khí vẫn còn vương ấm hơi tay của chủ nhân cũ. 100.000 binh lính còn lại đều hoàn toàn suy sụp, nức nở gào khóc, và điên cuồng tháo chạy tán loạn về mọi hướng. Giữa khung cảnh sụp đổ hoàn toàn ấy, Iron Dome đứng sừng sững trên tường thành, và giống lên áp đảo đoàn quân đang hoảng loạn tháo chạy bên dưới. Black Fang, hãy nghe cho rõ đây. Nếu đám lính của ngươi dám đâm đầu vào phòng tuyến của chúng ta, tụi tao sẽ tổng phản công bằng mọi thứ vũ khí đang có trong tay. Còn nếu muốn sống, hãy để lại một phần binh lực cản chân lớp sương mù, và toàn bộ số còn lại có thể tìm chỗ nép mình bên ngoài chân tường thành. Black Fang với đôi mắt đỏ ngầu, ngập tràn sự hối hận và cay đắng, đã nhận ra bản thân hiện đang rơi vào tử địa. Phía sau lưng hắn, làn xương tử thần đang biến đồng bào của hắn thành những con quái vật khát máu, còn ngay trước mặt lại là những bức tường người lùn tu tủa sát khí vũ khí. Và rồi, hắn buộc phải đưa ra quyết định khó khăn nhất cuộc đời. 30.000 chiến binh ở lại tử thủ để chặn màn sương lại. Tất cả những kẻ còn lại chạy ngay về phía tường thành người lùn. 30.000 binh sĩ dũng cảm nhất bỗng dừng phát bước chân chạy trốn. Họ quay ngoắt đầu lại, đối mặt trực diện với màn sương đen đang nuốt chửng mọi thứ. Trong tay chỉ cầm vỏn vẹn những chiếc rìu và sự phẫn nộ tột cùng. Họ biết chắc mình sẽ phải bỏ mạng, nhưng họ vẫn chấp nhận điều đó. Họ đang dùng chính tấm thân xác thịt của mình để đổi lấy thời gian. Hơn 70.000 quân kobold còn sót lại ào ạt giẫm đạp lên nhau lao về phía tường thành. Trong cơn hoảng loạn tột độ của bản năng sinh tồn, ngay khoảnh khắc họ vừa chạm tới vành đai ngoài, một tiếng nổ oanh thiên vang lên. Toàn bộ cấu trúc tường đá rung chuyển dữ dội. Hàng loạt cổ văn của người lùn được khắc chìm trên từng bề mặt, đồng loạt bùng sáng rực rỡ với sắc cam đỏ chói lọi. Một lớp khiên pháp trận khổng lồ bùng nổ phóng thẳng lên tận trời cao, bao trùm toàn bộ đám kobold vào trong thứ ánh sáng rực rỡ ấy. 30.000 chiến binh kobold hy sinh quả cảm, đã vừa khéo câu đủ từng giây phút quý giá, để lớp màng bảo vệ kích hoạt hoàn toàn. The black fog is completely sealed off by the runic shield, while every single kobold is locked outside the wall at the exact same time. Not a single one gets past, and it clicks for me instantly. Even though the undead race is universally hated as everyone's enemy, these crafty kobolds still chose to cooperate with them. They helped the undead isolate the elves and dwarves, playing a low-key role. They were totally complicit in this shady scheme, right up until the moment their dark masters decided. They were way more useful as plain old fertilizer. Should the dwarves let 70,000 desperate and terrified kobolds inside the protective walls? Just one minor panic or a single riot, backed by one brief moment of treachery, would cause the entire defense to collapse entirely from within, forcing the dwarves to fight on two grueling fronts. Simultaneously, keeping them out is brutal, no cap, yet it remains the absolute only survivable option left. Dwarf strategy is known for being cautious to an extreme degree, and cold to the touch. A blinding impact occurs when a runic barrier and the black fog collide. The flash is blindingly intense. The massive orange-red light curtain shudders violently, while erupting with a radiance so blindingly fierce. I have to shield my eyes, and even Iron Dome squints against the glare. Glowing red-hot, like literal branding irons, are the rune patterns etched across the stone wall. The surrounding air gets completely flooded with the scent of superheated metal. It is scorched, acrid, and utterly oppressive. This crazy overload is what happens when the barrier hits maximum capacity. The defensive shield of the dwarves is holding strong, though it is literally screaming under the intense pressure. Iron Dome's roar cuts clean through the shrieking of the stressed barriers. Iron Anvil, get every single runic artisan up here on the double right now. Reinforce those failing barrier nodes immediately. Hold the line, Iron Anvil. He stands barefoot, as usual, because this hardcore guy would forge right inside a raging tornado, and still wouldn't bother putting on any shoes, grabbing hold of his massive runic hammer tightly. He leads dozens of elite apprentices, while sprinting directly to the critical points along the rampart. Specialized runic chisels are forcefully slammed down into the weakening, flickering nodes, as they hammer away with everything they've got. Showers of glowing sparks are sent flying with each strike, exploding outward alongside ear-splitting metallic shrieks. It sounds like a barrier being held together purely by means of stubborn dwarf energy. Tendrils of black fog probe the barrier like searching fingers, looking for any tiny crack while climbing the outer surface, and testing every inch until I suddenly spot it. My eyes go wide as saucers when a single, thin tendril manages to find a hairline, gap between two separate runic nodes, and worms its way right through. Surrounding runes immediately begin dimming out of nowhere, dissolving the overall structure of the barrier, corroding at a visible speed wherever the toxic fog has penetrated. Patch it up right now, because there's another breach over there. Iron Anvil screams out loud, his voice breaking, with his voice completely shredded and raw, while dragging 2 apprentices along with him, to slam heavy runic plates directly into the crumbling node. Out past the stone wall, the black fog remains utterly relentless, dissolving everything in sight and corrupting all it touches, turning living beings into mindless puppets. An atmosphere of pure dread drowns out the entire dwarf defensive line completely. Then, with a sharp crack, the base of the massive stone wall splits wide open. Right through the barrier, a fist-sized hole suddenly rips open. Spasms and frantic flickers of orange-red light dance around the edges, beating erratically like a wounded heartbeat. Thick black fog begins pouring straight through the gap, and within the span of barely a few breaths, it condenses right before our eyes into a solid humanoid shape, clad in full black armor with a terrifying metal face mask. Hiding everything behind that helmet, right where a face should normally be, are just 2 swirling pools of dark fog spinning in slow motion. This is literally the first undead soldier to ever set foot inside the dwarf wall, standing dead center right here, merely 10 meters away from where I'm standing as Iron Dome reacts instantly. A ferocious red combat aura detonates outward from him with such violent force that the sheer shock wave stumbles me backward a full step. Sure, I've witnessed him unleash his combat aura before. I've even watched him shatter solid rock and dent heavy steel with it. Yet I have never seen him go this hard. Tonight, this is Iron Dome operating with the safety completely off. He morphs into a raging red blur in a single massive stride, swinging the legendary Forge Warhammer, accompanied by a devastating aura explosion that echoes through the cavern like a cannon going off. The heavy hammer punches straight through the undead soldier's chest plate, tearing right through the torso, and smashing deep into the stone floor underneath. Everything within a tight 2-meter radius instantly turns to absolute rubble. There is no blood, no liquid of any kind to be found. Only a thin wisp of black fog rising up from the crushed debris that hisses softly before dissolving completely into thin air. Iron Dome stands triumphantly atop the pile of broken stone, where his hammer is planted firmly, while a thick crimson aura swirls around him as he roars out orders so loud that my eardrums are ringing. Rushing forward with a backup runic panel, Iron Anvil acts fast, slamming it securely over the jagged breach, and hammering in 6 heavy reinforcement runic nails. Blinding sparks shoot in every direction with each strike, and amidst thunderous clangs, the magical barrier light finally stabilizes. The fierce glow steadies and the terrifying hole seals up. Yet I know deep down, we all know this is nothing more than a band-aid on a massive bullet wound. The undead use just one single tendril to pinpoint the barrier's exact weak point with eerie precision. Next time around, they're definitely going to hit every vulnerability simultaneously. Breaking through tonight was never actually their goal. They were just taking notes. Following several more aggressive probing strikes, the ominous black fog slowly starts to recede. Not because we successfully beat them back, but because they got exactly what they came for. I watched them pull back, stopping at precisely 100 meters away from the defensive barrier, halting with chilling, surgical precision, as if someone had measured the distance out with a physical ruler. This isn't a retreat by any stretch of the imagination. This is a predator, comfortably settling back on its haunches right after sizing up its helpless prey. The surviving kobolds, trapped helplessly between the suffocating fog and our protective wall, are now slumped against the cold stone, completely broken, bleeding profusely and totally shell-shocked. Black Fong sits all alone in a dark corner, staring blankly at the ground, his entire body trembling. All that obnoxious arrogance from his grand speech earlier is completely gone, now replaced by the brutal realization that he was never actually an ally to the undead forces. He was just livestock all along. Systematically, the dwarves confiscate every single weapon from the kobolds. 2 distinct races that have bitterly hated each other for generations now sit quietly on opposite sides of the exact same wall, keeping dead silent because the apocalyptic threat lurking behind the fog makes their petty rivalry look like nothing more than a children's argument. A hand gesture is thrown toward his troops by Iron Dome, while a chilling, low whisper escapes his lips. Get those guys shifted back toward the mountain valley. Keep tabs on them strictly, and if any start acting SUS, take them out before tonight ends. Side by side with Iron Dome, I scale the high wall. The dense fog has retreated past the abandoned kobold campsite. Though complete dispersal hasn't happened yet, it lingers quietly within the gloom like a predator biding its time. That wasn't any kind of retreat. Iron Dome points out, with one palm resting against the cold battlements. Gazing into the pitch black, it was just a dry run. Our barrier's maximum energy limits are totally mapped out now, along with every single blind spot, and the exact speed our artisans patch up damage. My breath catches in my throat instantly. So next time I'm going to hammer all those weak points at once? Affirmative, delivered with the gravity of a death sentence. Down in the rest chamber later that night, sleep eludes me completely as I bolt upright on the stone cot and voice the nagging thought that's been driving me crazy. Something here just doesn't add up at all. That fog could have kept pressing forward easily. Why pull back now? There's definitely a limitation involved. Maybe a range cap or a heavy energy toll is holding them back. Or they need downtime to digest whatever they just absorbed. Those kobolds weren't allies by any stretch. They were just snacks thrown into the exact same feeding trough. Either they require a cool-down period to process every drop of life force they just devoured, or they specifically have to burn through our runic shield first, before pushing deep into the mountains. Leaning against the wooden door frame, Iron Dome listens closely. As soon as I wrap up, a slow nod comes from him. His face masked in frost, he says you've got it figured out. They're going to crash wave after wave against us, wearing down this barrier until it completely shatters to dust. And that's when the real bloodbath kicks off, opening my mouth to spit out more ideas. To strategize, plan, and take action, blinding white light hits me. Are you kidding me right now? Right in the middle of a high-stakes wartime strategy session, the dimensional timer decides to pull this stunt and yanks me back home, materializing me inside my shop, with my brain still racing a million miles an hour. The undead are literally knocking on the dwarf's front door. That barrier isn't going to last forever. The elves are totally cut off, and I get yanked out of the server. Like a gamer getting disconnected mid-boss fight. Hang in there for me, Iron Dome. Maybe next round, I'll actually spawn near the elven forest. Exhaling a heavy sigh, there's literally zero I can do right now. After cleaning up and choking down something resembling breakfast, I pass out hard in bed until my phone alarms at noon. Notification hits. The Brazilian visa got approved. That glossy brand new stamp is stamped right in my dark green passport, looking super official and full of potential. Yet I feel completely dead inside about it, because my money situation has reached peak absurdity levels. Before clearing debts, I was dead broke and totally desperate, struggling even to afford instant ramen. Now, having cleared debts and sitting on millions in the bank, it's still not enough for bulk grain shipments for the dwarves, getting a foothold in the raw gemstone market, or running international shell companies. A couple million yuan is basically pocket change. That won't even cover the cover charge. With a tired groan, I dump a massive stack of dwarf gold ingots out of my spatial ring directly onto the mattress, staring right at 2 cubic meters of premium, top-tier gold. Doing the quick math in my head reveals hundreds of billions of yuan. Hundreds of billions are currently piled up underneath me. This insane fortune would legitimately make actual billionaires weep straight tears of jealousy. Let's be real. Buying skyscrapers would be easy. Purchasing entire private islands is totally doable. I could probably even acquire a small country without flinching, yet I can't touch a single solitary yuan of it. Selling a few measly, pathetic gold coins last time immediately summoned Huang Wenbei's entire shady organization, alongside a mysterious government research institute, and the intensely watchful eyes of the Zhou family. Dumping even a tiny fraction of this precious gold onto the open market would trigger massive financial alarms, blanketing the entire country with high-tech sensors. Every single regulatory agency, intelligence service, and tax authority would swarm me like hungry vultures. So here I am, feeling completely cooked, acting as the interdimensional equivalent of a dragon, resting on a massive mountain of treasure. Except this broke dragon lives on a flimsy, folding cot, stashed behind a shop counter, sweating bullets over rent money. Hundreds of billions sit in untouchable gold reserves, while mere hundreds of thousands linger in a bank account that is evaporating faster than morning dew on a hot summer sidewalk. The cosmic irony here is honestly so thick, I could literally slice right through it with my watermelon machete. Some of this gold needs to get cashed out, through unofficial channels, quietly and stealthily, kept completely safe by someone I trust implicitly. Every single contact I possess flashes through my mind. The Gu family is strictly business with zero emotional leverage, and asking Ejo's Research Institute is completely out of the question since they've been drooling over my ancient coins since day one. Huang Wenbao is a hard pass. I would genuinely rather eat raw gold bars than deal with him. That leaves Grandpa Joe alone, the very man whose life I saved. The guy who warmly declared that the Joe family is my family, and who also happens to be firmly under the impression that I am his beloved granddaughter's boyfriend and future grandson-in-law. That massive promise of unconditional backing might just be the absolute only card I can play. Visiting the Grand Joe estate is therefore back on my schedule, playing the role of the devoted future grandson-in-law bearing gifts once again. Staring blankly at my ceiling draws a heavy groan from me. Pretending to be a fake son-in-law is exhausting, and now more presents have to be meticulously prepared. My poor head feels like it's going to blow up. Two completely different worlds mean two separate crises. On one front, an ancient evil species is desperately trying to consume an entire continent. On the other front, it's all about high society in-law management and international money laundering logistics. Surprisingly enough, handling the demanding in-law expectations might actually be the hardest part. This bizarre situation is so thoroughly absurd that real economists should probably study it. Back when I was broke, crippling debt crushed my soul. But now that I'm rich, strict financial regulations crush me instead. The universe just swapped one miserable flavor of suffering for another, and shamelessly labeled it character development. Help is what I need, though. And whenever you need assistance from a powerful billionaire family that genuinely thinks you are their future grandson-in-law, showing up empty-handed is a major no-go. Scraping the absolute bottom of my spatial ring clean, I put together what this could easily be called the absolute craziest visiting the in-laws gift stash ever assembled. Two matching bundles of elven royal gold jewelry, crafted strictly through the Dwarf King's classified 9-tier gold layering method featuring 3 distinct gold tones, pounded into alternating strata, with leaf designs so hyper-detailed they practically breathe. And when daylight strikes them, the hues shift seamlessly from deep bronze gold to fiery red, straight into brilliant sun gold, making any high-end luxury brand look like cheap trinkets pulled from a vending machine. These pieces totally crush what I sold Cialii. 6 bottles of Iron Dome's exclusive private reserve, brewed using pristine underground river currents, plus wild mountain honey so rich and aromatic that a single whiff would make a master sommelier weep. Tightly plugged with sturdy oak stoppers, and hermetically sealed with fresh beeswax, to lock every drop of flavor for Grandpa Joe, alongside 3 rare out-of-world currency pieces in gold, silver, and copper, spanning 3 millennia of rich Aldous civilization history, forming a complete minting exhibition set that cold cash simply cannot purchase. While for Joe Mukai, my resident nuisance/future brother-in-law, who thrives on giving me a hard time, I packed another 6 identical bottles of the good stuff, because you can't just roll up empty-handed when dealing with a guy who live text reports your moves straight to your fake girlfriend's folks. Staring at my massive loot pile, I let out a dry, defeated chuckle, while normal folks bring boring cigarettes, fine wine, and fruit baskets when asking for favors. I'm out here hauling interdimensional relics like a total loot goblin. Pulling out my phone, I dial ahead. Grandpa, it's Chung Dong. Are you free this afternoon? I'd love to drop by. Since there's a quick matter I need to talk over with you. A booming laugh echoes right through the speaker. Little Dong, pop over whenever you like. Our front doors are always unlocked, pulling my ride into the Joe family estate. I notice the entire clan gathered together in the main lounge, sharing tea the exact second I push past the threshold. Radiant smiles and welcoming vibes light up every single face in the room. Everyone, that is except for Joe Minion, tucked away nervously in the far corner of the plush sofa. She freezes up the millisecond I step inside. Her gaze instantly shifts in a high-speed panic mode, darting frantically from the window pane to her porcelain cup, then scanning the ceiling plaster, fixing her eyes on literally anything that isn't me. With flushed pink ears, she fakes sipping water, with an intense focus, resembling a neurosurgeon performing a delicate operation. The psychological damage from that accidental Meet the Parents fiasco is clearly deep and long-lasting. I totally get her awkwardness, I really do. But the relentless undead faction is literally bashing down the dwarves' front gates, and that ancient magic defense wall could give out any day now. Meanwhile, I am sitting on billions in frozen, unspendable gold assets, while my current bank balance is bleeding dry, making family backup an absolute necessity. So I'll gladly swallow my pride today, handing the antique coin collection over to Grandpa Joe first. He unlatches the wooden case and watches his eyes go wide with shock, tilting the rare coins onto the afternoon sunlight streams, while tracing his thumb carefully across each polished surface. His excitement visibly builds with every passing second. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating little bronze coins. These pieces are wild, especially this oldest one here. The minting technique used is totally raw and archaic, leaving zero machine marks anywhere. Yet the material purity is ridiculously high. The other two exhibit progressively refined designs, stemming from distinctly separate eras. 3,000 years of metallurgical evolution are summed up by this guy in a flat 30 seconds flat. His gaze feels way more intimidating than Cho's entire research institute combined. Next up comes the wine intended for Jo Junjin, as her dad grabs a bottle and lifts it against the light, watching the thick amber liquid cling to the glass walls. His composed businessman persona fractures for a split second. Without uttering a single word, he very carefully and deliberately sets the bottle back down with both hands. I see it crystal clear now. The guy is genuinely terrified of dropping it. This veteran who routinely handles million-dollar deals is treating my dwarf wine like it's spun out of pure dreams. Then the jewelry arrives, and I hand one box to her mom, and another to Muning Chin Shui. She pops hers open and literally lets out a loud gasp. Her pupils instantly dilate. She traces her trembling fingers over the golden vine patterns, embedded with tiny mithril star accents, looking like she might actually shed a tear right there. This craftsmanship is straight up unbelievable. I have never laid eyes on gold with this kind of texture throughout my entire life. Little bronze coin. This is honestly too much. Meanwhile, Muning peeks over with intense curiosity, catches sight of the jewelry, and her ice queen demeanor completely shatters. Her face lights up like a kid watching epic fireworks. Then during a quiet moment, while the parents and grandfather remain deep in chat, she leans right into my ear and whispers low, with an adorable mix of playful accusation and a pouty complaint. Chung Dong, you absolute liar. I blinked twice. Wait, how on earth did I lie? She plants her hands on her hips, her voice dropping to a whisper. You told me you barely had any good pieces left in stock, yet you show up with all of this. You've seriously been holding out on me, lady. These are elite elven royal dowry grade items. The only tier above this is pure mithril jewelry. And I'm not even convinced that element exists on Earth. What more do you want from me anyway? Finally, I hand the final 6 bottles over to Joe Mukai. He accepts them with a smooth, perfectly pleasant smile. Then, he deliberately drags out his words in the most lethal, casual tone possible. Why, thank you. Dear brother-in-law, how wonderfully thoughtful of you. Already bringing official engagement gifts. I see. I nearly dropped the empty gift bag right there. Total body freeze, instant social death. This guy practically holds a PhD in locating my exact pressure point and stomping on it, as he watches me completely malfunction. His shoulders are visibly shaking from trying to suppress his laughter. He's a certified professional chaos agent disguised as a gentleman, following that intense gift-giving gauntlet. Grandpa Joe, sharp as ever, instantly reads the room vibes and rises to his feet. Little bronze coin, follow me to the study. As the heavy door clicks shut, we get right down to business in private. Dropping all the small talk instantly sets a tense, dead serious vibe in the room. Without wasting a single beat, I dive straight to the point with Grandpa. My schedule's filling up because I'm planning a major trip down to Brazil. Massive bulk grain procurement and high-end gemstone sourcing are the main goals. Unfortunately, dealing with official channels proves to be way too restrictive. Stifling red tape and suffocating paperwork block every move, leaving my available capital totally choked up through formal routes. What I genuinely require right now is access to hidden, private channels, alternative paths that offer real flexibility instead of dead ends, keeping any mention of the spatial ring completely off the table. I leave out the staggering hundreds of billions of untouchable gold and hide the crazy secret of the other world entirely. Laying out strictly what I need on the table is my only move. Grandpa Joe stands as a battle-tested man in his 70s, who has effortlessly survived and massively thrived through decades of fierce business warfare. Every single word I say and everything I leave unsaid is completely grasped by him. Leaning back comfortably into his leather chair, he rhythmically taps his fingers on the desk, pausing a second to process everything before speaking. I totally follow you, he replies with a knowing nod. Back in the day, those massive mineral import and export operations in Brazil were run entirely by me. spending well over a decade entrenched down there, led to me eventually selling off-the-core mining rights. Yet all my old-school connections, the valuable people and deep-rooted relationships, remain completely active, he notes, locking a steady, warm gaze onto mine. Those specific contacts specialize heavily in underground private channels and slick gray market trades requiring zero source verification, free from any annoying bureaucratic bottlenecks. It is literally the exact solution you're looking for, making a massive boulder on my chest roll off instantly and crash harmlessly deep into the ocean, allowing me to finally breathe. Then he drops a statement that unexpectedly makes my eyes sting with emotion. Your secrets are safe. I won't ever pry into what you're actually doing, nor will I launch any investigation. But you genuinely saved my life, and the Joe family never forgets a debt. His voice sounds remarkably firm and resolute, with each spoken word landing heavy like a massive cornerstone being laid down. Whenever you find yourself in trouble, just come straight to me, and I'll back you up. Standing completely motionless in silence for a couple of seconds, I feel an overwhelming wave of pure warmth flood my chest. This incredible old man, whom I casually rescued on a random dusty roadside, and who still mistakenly thinks I'm dating his granddaughter, due to a hilarious cascade of absolute misunderstandings, is voluntarily offering me unconditional support, asking for absolutely nothing in return. Bending deeply at the waist, I deliver a formal, respectful bow, completely genuine and entirely devoid of performance. Thank you so much, Grandpa. The absolute deadliest roadblock threatening my entire two-world operation. The stubborn funding bottleneck that had me completely trapped in a corner just got completely sorted out by a few heartfelt words from a kind old man. Breaking into a gentle smile, he invites me to stay for dinner. And for once, I gladly accept without hesitation.